25 people down there taking stuff out of the stores.
Stan, is this as far west as the activity, the illegal activity, and let's face it, that's what it is. This is thuggery. Is this as far west as they have progressed so far?
Yes, Larry. This is, Hal and I were talking a little earlier about north and west, and we were over Adams and Western. Then we looked ahead toward the Baldwin Hills, and we saw this fire just starting, and came over here, and this fire now is the farthest west that we have seen so far this evening.
Stan, you know, I on audio and video. There, I think it's. Wait a minute.
The firemen have now arrived at this scene. As you can see, there are 2 units here, and of course there were 3 or 4 units across the street.
Okay, Stan, I'm just getting word that we have on the phone. As we look at your pictures, is it a fire battalion commander who we have on the phone?
Pardon me? Okay, we're going to have to. Let me just ask you a couple more things. What are you going to do right now? You're obviously stuck here in front of the command center.
Well, what I'm going to try to do is if I can bring my vehicle in the safe zone here, and by doing that, I can hopefully I'll be able to get a ride.
Interesting in the shot a second ago, Josh, I originally thought I saw a TV camera person being rather foolish and getting very, very close to that coffee shop. It is a police video photographer. He had a police jacket. They seem to be making their own recording their own record of what's happening tonight.
Yeah, flames are now coming out the window of that coffee shop.
Josh, we're going to break away and go to Stan Wilson. Stan is on the other side of that fire that you're looking at, and the other side of the confrontation, or the scene that we're looking at there. Stan, are you there on the phone?
Yeah, can you hear me, Jerry?
What can you tell us from your vantage point, please?
It's absolute pandemonium. It's chaos here downtown. We are right in the middle of it.
Has there been any use of force yet tonight?
I can't say. I don't know of any.
Not as far as your team is concerned?
None of the people in my squad have been involved in any use of force.
Okay, all right, thank you very much, Sergeant. Okay, the fire truck is just leaving. Eric, you're going to watch your back there, cameraman. Okay, now as far as use of force, earlier this evening I did see one man who was taken down. I don't know what he did. There were reports that he had thrown something at one of the officers. They took him down, and in fact that's when it really started to heat up here tonight. Protesters moved in, and that's when they set that structure on fire in the parking area. We are going to leave this area and move around the city and see if we can find any other damage. So we will get back to you if we find anything else going on. Reporting live in front of Parker.
As far as control is concerned, there doesn't appear to be much. A helicopter came in, a police helicopter, flashed its light over the scene, and that helped to get the crowd dispersed. And good reason, because there was a school bus that was parked there. Nobody was inside, but they were trying to overturn that as well. Now you see, of course, a picture live from Newscopter 7, and I'll leave it with you, Paul and Ann, to talk about that.
One thing I want to say, well, I'll say it after we go to Jeff Michael at Foothill Division. Jeff, you got some more?
Yeah, basically, Paul, the helicopters come in here, but we've been taking more rocks, and I'll show you what's happened. Another photographer from one of the other stations here took 2 rocks, and basically what happened?
Well, when the officers started moving toward the crowd, we moved with them. And just
from the building there, this happened in the last 2 minutes. A big plume of smoke below it. You can see the flames. That building, excuse me, we're on the air, ma'am. That building is completely engaged. It seems like it's a pretty big fire, and again, it's right by the command post. Just to show you how difficult the situation is around here, this is a fire that's being unattended right now, even though it's within range of a number of fire departments. And that's how many fires the LAPD and the fire department seem to be dealing with. We're going to try to get away from a crowd here that seems to be converging a little bit. We don't want to cause any disruption.
That would also speak to the fact, Harvey, that it is very difficult to secure any area. You have the one area in the entire
neighborhood there that ought to be secure, and it is not.
Boy, Mike, that is well said. If it can happen this way, and if it can go unattended, you can imagine what it must feel like around this entire area of South Central right now. No area seems to be safe.
That's
and again,
right. A Pasadena police commander has said that the whole city is on alert, so we know that everywhere they're reporting that services are maxed out.
Let me just show you something, if I may. I think it's rather incredible. You can see some fire trucks there. We're looking at a fire 2 blocks away, and there are fire trucks here that they're just maxed out right now, and they're having to respond to so many other calls that this is just a matter of priorities, and sometimes you have to let things burn that you would otherwise never tolerate.
Well, and we just had a fire truck that was fired.
There's been talk that it's perhaps a gas station, a furniture store. It's right near an apartment building, and they were trying to get some people out of the building. Fire crews arrived on this part of the building where we are a few minutes ago. They were running a hose over there. Let's talk with Brian now. What did you see?
Well, when I was over there, a lot of people in distress and a lot of chaos going on. Just people just not knowing what to do, not knowing how to vent their frustrations out.
There are a lot of people right now here out on the streets, and you all were taking part in trying to help people out. What were you doing?
Well, we're trying to get people into the church and to calm them down and get them in the church. So, you know, you have to wear the firemen so they can go and do their job.
Okay, a lot of people out here again right now. A fire behind me. It's been going on for about 30 minutes at least. I see several helicopters overhead. Fire crews are here. There are some police officers to the other side of me. They were here, I think, for the rally, so they are not extra police officers. But a lot of people standing around. And just a few minutes ago, about 40 men came marching by here. They are with the church. They are trying to help out people on the streets, calm people down, bring them in. And inside, people have been saying prayers that the calm would remain.
People we have talked to tonight are just burning unattended, simply because, A, they haven't got enough people to get to all of them at the same time, B, the danger factor. And when we have seen pictures of firemen getting to the scene and throwing water on these fires, they are surrounded by a phalanx of policemen. They have to be protected. And we have seen building after building, much as we're looking at right now, go up in flames and become smoldering embers without any fireman throwing a drop of water on them, certainly because they can't get there to do it.
The count of buildings lost tonight is going to have to top 2 dozen.
Well, I think it has already.
It must have, because there's one, the one that's just beyond it that we just came off of, was at least a double. I mean, there could be 6 in that row right there. And we have seen repetitions of that site for the last 2 hours.
We have yet to
imagine
hear
it.
a definitive word from the LAPD on why, when we initially started covering this, and it started at one intersection in South Central Los Angeles, they waited so long to move in and do anything. That is not casting judgment at all. We are going to wait and see what their plan was and how they carried it out. The people of Los Angeles deserve that explanation, and they will get it.
Captain Ron is...
beneath us.
You're
Yes,
talking
good.
about looting. Go ahead. We're with you, Ron.
Okay, we're right back here at, let's see, this is Vermont and Manchester, and we're looking just actually east of the fires that we've gone, and we've got some very heavy looting going on in this store. It's the ABC liquor store, and it's a very large store. You can see an awful lot of cars down there and an awful lot of people walking in and out at will, looting this store. Now, we just have been over this scene just for a couple of minutes, and it's very apparent to us that these people have been here a long time. This looting has been going on a long time. We've been concentrating on some of the fires, and we've missed this looting that we're seeing right now.
That is an amazing scene. It's like somebody said, we're holding a sale. Get your bags and come on in. That's a lot of people running out of there.
We're actually seeing some of the people here that have shopping carts that are taking their merchandise out of the store and loading up their car with at this time.
Is that broken glass, all that litter in the front there that we see in front of the doorway?
You know, I don't think it's broken glass. I think it's just debris and garbage as they come out. Maybe some of the packaging, the merchandise that they're taking out is just thrown out at that point.
We've been asked to go to Henry Alfaro. Henry Alfaro was at the command post at 54th and Arlington, and that was the spot where the police had gathered together prior to heading out to the different fire scenes. Let's go to Henry now. He's got a police officer for us. Go ahead, Henry.
Well, standing with me right now is Captain Sandy Wasson from the Los Angeles Police Department. He's been here at the command post for several hours now. And Captain, what is the latest? I know we see a lot of people coming in here, but the deployment procedure, what are the plans?
Well, we've activated the emergency command vehicles that you see behind me, and we're dispatching the people from there. What we're doing right now is becoming better organized, getting better information, and becoming better coordinated. So as you can see, the cars and the ambulances that are going out now, we're trying to respond to the most important calls for service right away.
How widespread is the looting and the fires and the problems?
Well, the problem is it's very sporadic. It's not all concentrated in one area. Something might pop up in one particular area, something will happen there, and then it'll go away and go down someplace else. So the difficulty that we're having is to pinpoint.
Comprehend. I'm going to turn the helicopter a little bit more towards the east, and Dane can pan out there towards the southeast of our location here. And what you're looking at is probably down near about Century Boulevard, maybe a little bit south of Century Boulevard, and those fires would be along Normandy, Vermont, Hoover, Figueroa, in that area.
We can see at least a dozen plumes of smoke rising in the air right now.
And I'll just keep the turn going here and kind of give you a panoramic view of, we're looking now out to the east, and then we're going to turn, I've got a helicopter out here, I got to kind of avoid him. And looking back down towards the downtown area, and everywhere you look, that's all you can see is fires, and we have new ones popping up all over.
The downtown area that the Children's Museum, as the police were dispersing the crowd around the Parker Center, small rubbish fires and vegetation fires were popping up around the Children's Museum. There had been a report that the Children's Museum was on fire. It was just basically the vegetation and trees around the museum, but firefighter units were able to be deployed there quickly and get a quick knockdown and move on to the other fires that were being reported in the downtown area. The downtown area is not as inundated with major structure fires as the South Central area is at right now.
Did you do any counseling for firefighters today to get them prepared for what might happen?
Can you? I was asking you, the fires are pretty much out downtown?
You're asking me if things are pretty much under control now?
If the fires are out, the fires that were burning, we had palm trees burning, buildings with fires set at the base of them. The fires look like they're out right now.
No, Ann, I'm sorry. We've got helicopters up above and people yelling and sirens going, and every other building here in the downtown area has their security alarm going off right now, so I'm sorry I can't hear you.
Let me give it a try, Linda. Are the fires downtown pretty much out now?
If you're asking me about the traffic, once again, there's still traffic going through this downtown area. It doesn't seem like it's been cordoned off.
Okay, Linda.
We are defeated. And
we are done. We are also, I recall.
Are you asking about the fires?
Yeah.
Yes.
The fire, I don't see any fire anymore in this area. I can see probably about a 3-block area right around here. Once again, the Criminal Courts Building, Hall of Justice, City Hall, First and Spring. I do not see, I smell a lot of smoke still, but I don't see any flames right now. It does seem to be it's certainly a much better situation than it was 1 or 2 hours ago.
All right, Linda, thank you very much. Again, it looks like things are pretty much under control downtown. This all began at 3 o'clock this afternoon is when those verdicts came down. And
that is correct.
Shortly after that, now you're looking at the intersection where I believe all of this violence began. This is in South Central at
Florence and Normandy.
and Florence. The gentleman, the man lying there was the driver of that truck. He was the one that was pulled out of there and beaten senseless by 4 to 5 men. And this is the fellow who may lose an eye because of this.
Now, 2 of the men who helped beat him up, or at least were part of the mob, reportedly popped him in a car and drove him to the hospital and then took off again.
Go figure.
So go figure. We just don't know what to think. But this is the intersection where it began, and it began with throwing things at cars that drove by and looting that one liquor store that just is disappearing in the right-hand bottom corner of your screen. And then it sort of seemed to spread from there. Within an hour, there were fires, and it's just gotten worse as the evening went on.
Now, that man laid there for a good
while.
probably 15 to 20 minutes before somebody, well, obviously 2 of the guys that beat him up took him. Now, there's the liquor store that Ann was talking about, that all that looting was happening earlier this afternoon. This began, what, about 5:30, 5:45?
I think it did, and we originally made a decision, our general manager and the news director made a decision that they weren't necessarily going to go on the air with it right away, hoping that if different news departments in town didn't give it a lot of play, that instead of blowing up into a giant riot, that it would sort of peter out. But it hasn't done, and we went on the air with it just before 7.
There's a very sensitive area there. I think all of you know that a lot of times when you turn on a camera and you point it at a group of people, they will do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do if that camera wasn't there. The same is true with police helicopters, and that is why we waited until, you know, the last possible moment to cover this thing, because we didn't want to help incite it. But obviously, helicopters or no news helicopters or cameras, it got out of control. And you're looking at the intersection where it started.
Yeah. And this intersection had, I would guess, maybe 50 to 100 people milling around there, and the cars that are the red and blue cars there that right at the bottom of the screen, that was one of the collisions where the people in that car got pulled out and roughed up a bit too. A woman in that car we think got out okay, but
2 guys got beat up pretty good. We saw that happen on our live and on our tape. Now you're looking at what Captain Ron thought was a mattress. That was the first fire that we saw this afternoon. A little fire off to the side of the road there too. Obviously the fires have gotten much bigger than that, and they have multiplied.
Not long after this, they set a car afire at this intersection, and then we were out at about a mile away where there was a building that was burning. Now that first building fire, the police and the fire department got to that, boom, right as it went up. And they had police protection, and they got that fire out rather quickly. But after that, the fire started springing up faster than you could keep track of them, and they seemed to be just burning down to the ground.
We saw this earlier too, this motorist in that black car being pelted with Lord knows what, got out with his life, his or her life, stopped and then took off. You know what amazes me is that pedestrians, that people in the street weren't hit by these cars, because they're just willy-nilly going through the intersection. There was no traffic control here. There was no police presence.
No, and there was no barricade. This was a dangerous intersection for a matter of a couple of hours, I think, and school buses continued to go through this intersection. And we were astounded that school buses drove through this intersection and people were throwing things at the school buses, and RTD buses went
One
through
RTD
too.
bus got hit pretty good.
Now we've told you this already, but I think there's a whole section of Los Angeles where school is not going to happen tomorrow. See if I can find this. Yes, several LA Unified School District campuses are going to be closed tomorrow because of the rioting. Superintendent William Anton has called for closure of all schools and offices tomorrow within the area of Adams Boulevard to the north, Imperial Highway to the south, La Cienega Boulevard on the west, and Alameda Street on the east. That is according to a school district spokeswoman, Diane Munatonis. She could not immediately say how many schools would actually be affected by that, but it's probably a good call. There will not be school tomorrow in the area bordered by Adams, Imperial, La Cienega, and Alameda.
While you're looking at tape shot earlier today, we are just told now, getting back to the present time tonight, that authorities are searching for a firefighting crew and truck that disappeared near Vernon Avenue and Vermont Street. A fire truck and crew that disappeared near Vernon Avenue and Vermont Street.
We also have a bulletin that says that demonstrators downtown as of 10:30 were setting cars ablaze, including at least one police patrol vehicle on Main Street. Now, we just came away from being with Linda Moore downtown probably 5 minutes ago, and she was not aware of any fires, at least not that she could see. But
yeah, go ahead, 52.
This is what we're hearing. Now, we'll see if we can get confirmation on that, if there is some kind of
We're looking at a picture here on our live monitor, gentlemen. What is that? It's tape. All right. Okay.
Okay. This
Beg
is
your
tape
pardon.
this is tape from downtown. Now that's what we're looking for in looking at in this monitor here. This is from the City Hall area, and in front of LA Times. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what that was. We saw that earlier. After the organized demonstration.
People are heading home. If you're expecting a loved one to come home from that game, there's a good chance they're going to be late if they were relying on the Harbor Freeway or any of those other routes that pass through south central Los Angeles.
Looks like it's at least a city block long. The one fire there to your right, and then there's more off to the left.
We're urging people to please stay home tonight, monitor these developments, stay home, take care of your families. You can only be involved in trouble if you go out and try to see this firsthand.
Oh, what a sight. Let's go to Harvey Levin now.
We're with Captain Sandy Wasson, who is at the command post with us for the LAPD and the fire department.
Center and City Hall. This will show you what went on at the Parker Center area just a short time ago. Fires were set at Parker Center, a kiosk was destroyed, and trees were set on fire. This was amateur video that was taken by a person on the scene and then sent to us. The strategy of the Los Angeles police officers tonight was to form a perimeter around the building, and then from the building to move out first to the street and then down the street to move the demonstrators out of the area. I believe we have Ron Olson now live from the scene. Ron?
Yes, Hal, the situation now is, as you said, has calmed down considerably here at Parker Center. I'm wondering if we go back to that amateur video, or is that gone now?
Yeah, we will put it up here in just a moment for you.
Okay, I bumped into a gentleman by the name of Terry Sands. He's a private investigator, and he has been out here with a home video camera, and he happened to be over on Main Street when they had a problem or two over there.
Okay, Ron, we are going to roll that tape that you requested.
Okay, now what you're looking at, according to the guy who shot at Terry Sands, these are LAPD police cars on Main Street over in front of City Hall, both of them on fire. A number of police were dispatched over to the area. We've been talking all night about groups of police running over through City Hall East over to Main Street. Apparently this is one of the incidents that took them over there. These two police cars on fire, fully involved, as you can see. The police, in just a moment now, you're going to see, there's the officers. There was, and I assume there still is, a mob or mobs of people roving around the downtown area. These police officers confronted one of those mobs, and as they approached the mob, as they walked up to the mob, the people used their better judgment in this case and dispersed. There was one person taken into custody. There's another police car going up. As I say, according to Mr. Sands, 2 police cars. He got video of 2 police cars burning. And in just a minute here, I think we're going to see, this is Main Street again, in front of Los Angeles City Hall.
Ron, did Mr. Sands tell you approximately what time it was when he took this video?
Well, he's standing right here. Terry, come here. When did you shoot these pictures?
Approximately 35 minutes ago.
35 minutes ago. And what we're going to see now, I think, is an arrest being made, correct?
Yes. Coming up is the police holding the line right on Main Street, and they waited till they identified the man throwing the rocks and the bottles at the officers. They ran across the street and apprehended him and took him into custody.
Okay, and we are now back on a live picture of Los Angeles Street, just on the other side of Temple. Some police officers, I don't know if they're escorting someone out of the area. That appears to be the case. Either that or they're just walking down Los Angeles Street as a precautionary measure. At any rate, we thank Terry Sands for that video, Hal, and the fires over on Main are out now, and I do not know at this point just how many of those, for lack of a better word, I'm going to call them provocateurs, are running around the downtown area.
All right, hopefully you have heard the shots that were fired. Several shots were fired. We've since been told by one of the sergeants out here that the shots were fired in the air. However, I was among the news crews who were right in the line of fire. We could not tell where the shots were coming from. And the rocks have continued to fly. Protesters have continued to throw rocks and bottles and eggs at police. We have not turned a light on because we don't want to incite the protesters. One of our colleagues, Webb Weber, a photographer with one of the other television stations, was injured. He was hit twice by rocks. His legs are injured and he's currently being bandaged. So the Foothill Division is out in this area, spread out in the residential areas. There's no word yet on who fired those shots. Police did go chasing after the crowd, but the crowd dispersed and they did not, as we've been told, they have not captured the person who fired the shots. It's been calm here for the past 15 minutes or so, but the police are braced for more trouble. They are in riot mode. Live from the Foothill Division, Michelle Holden, Fox 11 News.
Okay, Michelle Holden reporting from the Foothill Division headquarters there. We have just learned this. It is not good news. At least one person has been killed as a result of tonight's violence. Daniel Freeman Memorial has reported the man died from trauma and gunshot wounds. We've also learned that the man that you saw pulled over from his big rig and pulled out of his big rig and beaten severely earlier tonight is in surgery right now and that he is in critical condition. Also, police say that that wounded firefighter we told you about a couple of times was shot in the face. Again, we have no word on his condition, but he was shot in the face. But to repeat, at least one person is dead as a result of tonight's riots.
Police crossed the street, chased the demonstrators. It was at that point that the shots were fired. The police continued to chase the demonstrators into a parking lot across the street from the Foothill Division, and arrests were made. The rest of the demonstrators scattered. They regathered here at this corner, and that went on for 30, 45 minutes, and then more rocks were thrown, and the demonstrators scattered as police chased them. And that is essentially the situation here. It's proactive here, but no injuries. It's been essentially quiet, certainly quiet by the standards ongoing tonight in Los Angeles.
It occurs to me, those of us who are covering this know where the Foothill Division is. Perhaps some members of our audience don't know exactly where you're located there.
Well, we are northeast of where you are broadcasting from in the studios in Hollywood. So we're in the northeast part of the city.
Can you tell me, Will, have you had a chance to talk to any of the police officers there nearby as something tonight?
People pulling up street signs, metal street signs, tipping over, not tipping, pushing over concrete pots, holding trees lining the streets. I mean, people, when they left the Parker Center or if they joined in progress, became more and more violent. Some of the fellas we talked to here over by the federal courthouse said that they had just decided to come down and see what was going on, and that may be what happens all night. Police Commissioner Michael Yamaki was over at Parker Center. He said the different commissioners are throughout the city trying to keep a handle on what's going on. He said his big worry was that there would be no extra policemen around Parker Center in downtown Los Angeles, that what they had was what they got.
Laurel, what do you know about this school bus? What was it doing in downtown Los Angeles in the middle of the evening? And did it have anybody on it?
Lou, let me ask the cameraman. Lou, you got up close to the school bus. Was there anybody on it, or was it just parked there? Have no answers for you, Colleen. Lou Zapata says that there was no one on the school bus. It was just parked there. And the demonstrators, as you say, just rumbled that bus.
It's interesting, in one of the pieces of tape you and Lou provided us there, we saw a flame being tossed into a building, but it clearly was not an unoccupied building because there was a quick rush of a fire extinguisher putting out that flame. So apparently there are people inside those buildings too.
I imagine there are.
Looking at the Harbor Freeway right now. The Harbor Freeway is closed in both directions between the Santa Monica Freeway and Century Boulevard. You're looking at it. Then up a little bit above that, you see the Hollywood Freeway is closed right in downtown LA in both directions. Apparently there were some fires set on an overpass there by some of those crowds that had been around City Hall and Parker Center. So those freeways remain closed at this time in both directions.
All of this going on while the traffic in that area is impacted by the people coming out of the Forum trying to get home. So things are not good in that area tonight. Alternate routes are in order. Los Angeles District Attorney Ira Reiner joins us now.
and they're forming it. Basically, that's what the LAPD protection is really for at this point. They're going in there to protect the firefighters, to stop the fires. But with respect to trying to get LAPD service or anything else, folks, you're on your own down there. If you call the police, I wouldn't expect to see them coming to help. The primary purpose at this point is pretty much to go out there and help firefighters do their job. Reporting live, Bob Turk, KNX Chopper 10-7.
All right, Bob. Bob is going to stand by, of course, with us all night here and keep us up to date. We are going to take a quick break now. We'll be back. We're going to have a look at sports, and, of course, we'll bring you right up to the minute on everything that's going on in our city.
Overwhelmed by a large number of violent individuals to have to, vacate and wait for reinforcements. We don't just, do a Custer's last stand. We try and do things so that we are tactically sound and the advantages on our side.
And did you go in then and try and blockade the area so that innocent motorists wouldn't be walking into that kind of a situation or driving into that kind of a situation?
Patty, to my knowledge, we have tried our best to keep that entire area free of any additional people going in there and being victimized. I don't know that they have entirely blocked off those streets. I do know we have blocked off some freeways and some other areas, so it wouldn't surprise me if we haven't in fact done that at that location.
Do you have reports of police officers injured?
To my knowledge at this point, no.
Commander, have we had any word down at LAPD headquarters about the arrival of the National Guard? If so, when and who will be coordinating all of the activities between LAPD and the Guard?
Chris, that's being handled by the chief down at the Emergency Operations Center. Quite frankly, I'm not privy to that knowledge at this time, but I would anticipate that with the governor approving those troops, that we will be getting them as soon as possible to supplement our forces.
Commander Gill, we're getting a report from the Associated Press that 72 people have been injured. Can you verify that?
Well, I can't, I can't confirm that right now. I can go back and get on the phone myself and to try and verify that, but I don't have that at the tip of my fingers right now.
Okay.
Commander Robert Gill of the LAPD, thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate your joining us.
We are getting word now that the Great Western Forum is getting hundreds of phone calls from worried family members any minute now. Thousands of fans will be leaving the Lakers playoff game, and we are told that so far there have been no problems, and that the forum management as well as police officers have set up barricades to help direct traffic into safe areas. So that should put your mind at ease there if you're waiting for someone to come home from that Lakers game. People at the forum are making announcements at the game warning people not to get off the main roads while they're going home. We have a news crew on the way to the forum, and we'll let you know more about what's happening there as soon as we know anything more.
Because right now the forum in the Inglewood area is still well west of the troubled area that we are showing you video of now. Major fires, and for some reason, perhaps because people who are setting fires know that inside these indoor swap meet buildings are huge amounts of clothing and other very flammable, burnable stuff. And perhaps that's why they are picking on these buildings. But there does seem to be an inordinate number of those indoor swap meet buildings being set on fire. It seems sort of odd to be looking at these pictures from the helicopter of big, big buildings, 2 and 3 stories, fully engulfed in flames, and traffic sort of going by them as if things were normal.
Yeah, and very few lights, as Tony was telling us earlier. Much of the electricity around some of these areas is out because transformers have either blown or been blown or burned.
We do have a report that perhaps one person has been killed as the result of tonight's violence, the man dying from trauma and gunshot wounds, according to officials at Daniel Freeman Memorial Hospital. Also, we saw the pictures of the man laying in the street around Florence and Normadie next to his big rig truck. He is reportedly in surgery right now in critical condition, as Patty said. At least an Associated Press report of as many as 72 injuries.
Let's speak now with Reverend Carl Washington, who has been a voice of calm through this whole thing from the New Commandment Church.
Don Ray Liquor Market. Cameraman Sam LaFoca was up there with fire department personnel and also with some SWAT officers who were protecting them. They decided they had to do a sweep of that area before they would even get close. That's why there's no water being put on the building. Now that is about 1 mile to the north of where I am right now. It's fires are still breaking out throughout the area. This is what it's like from the ground, and this is why it is so hard for firemen to get into anything like this, because they are targets. Anybody could stand across the street and take a shot at them, as already happened earlier this evening. Back here at the command post, we have up to 600 officers, as Captain Wesson said, who will be here and who are going in and out of here throughout the night. And we will be back to you with an update on further word on whether we have any more casualties.
Okay, Steve, I guess you heard the report about the fatality and also on the casualties that have been admitted just to one hospital. We can't report on any others since we do not have any reports from them at this time. Now, what about, Steve, can you tell us, because when the last time we talked to you, there were a considerable number of fire units there. What has happened to those units?
About 20 of those units have gone out of here, to this fire, both the one near Adams and Western, also on Normandy, where there have been several fires reported. What they're trying to do is get to the fires that might threaten more than one building. When you see just one building by itself, that could maybe be left alone, but they're trying to get to the ones where they may have one structure threatened that it may spread to others. So I would say at this point, probably half of the fire units have left the area. There are still some here behind me, but half of them are out on calls right now.
So they're almost using a firefighter's triage system.
Pardon me, I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry, Larry, go ahead.
Well, they're using something like a firefighter's triage system, treating the most serious set of circumstances first.
Right. We have just had a report of violence breaking out in North Long Beach now. At the Carmelitas Housing Center, there is a report of violence breaking out at that point at this time. We'll bring you further details on that situation as soon as it develops. The Channel 5 helicopter is now refueling so it can stay aloft and bring you complete coverage from the air, and it should be aloft in just about 5 minutes. We want to go now to Jan for, remember we said that we would once again tell the people which schools were being closed, so...
Flat tire apparently that had been shot at by some people a few blocks away. There are hecklers around here. We're hearing sounds that may be firecrackers, that may be shots. We don't know. The officers don't know. It's just a very eerie feeling. Mike and Bree.
Let's go to Bill Pounders now for an update on his situation.
We're live here at Crenshaw and Adams. Look across the street behind me, next to this theater. This is a furniture store. It's burning, and no one is responding to it right now. We see people just scattered around the street, just taking things out of buildings. Over here, you can see this car, a man just putting stuff into his car. We see several, we hear a lot of noise going on right now. We're standing across the street from this. We're at the Exxon gas station. Apparently, the owners of this gas station, for what witnesses tell us, simply left. They simply left the area on foot. Their cars, you can see over here, these are the owners' cars, the owners of the gas station. And as you can see, their windows are totally broken out. And if we can go right up here to the Exxon station, there appears to have been a fire. A fire has been set in the gas station. We were here earlier, about 10 minutes ago. We saw people just going into the Exxon station, taking soft drinks out, whatever they could. Right now we're at Crenshaw and Adams, and as you can see, a lot of looting going on, very indiscriminately. One of the witnesses was telling me that the people were trying to hit the stores that are white-owned. But as you can see, there's been a lot of damage around here, and this just begins to tell the story of the situation here at Crenshaw and Adams.
There does not seem to be any police presence in that neighborhood right now.
That's the whole thing. There is no police presence here at all.
Clearly, the gas station owners in that area may have had forethought about this and turned the pumps off so that if there were fire, there wouldn't be subsequent explosions.
You can see the pumps over here, Bree. You see, they're all out.
Harvey, you've already been hit by rocks once tonight. Get out of that neighborhood, will you?
All right, Bill. Let's go back now to Dave Barker in Westwood, where there's been some trouble.
Yeah, some trouble exactly just a few moments ago. Let's take a look at some of it right here. This is a storefront. It's at the intersection of Westwood and Weyburn. We understand this happened just a few moments ago. It's a very unsettling feeling right now. We're hearing shouts in the distance, and people have been driving by telling us to get over there. There's some sort of riot. We have a police car directly in front of me here. We're not sure exactly what's going on right now. We've got some police officers to the left here in riot gear. And again, the situation is happening right now in Westwood. Now keep in mind, folks, as you watch these pictures, this is 30 minutes or so from the scene you're seeing in downtown Los Angeles. We also had an eyewitness to the situation here. Jeff, could you come over here a second? All right, this is Jeff Davidson. Jeff, you saw what happened. What happened?
Yeah, I was out here and I was going to take the bus, RTD, and they happened to shut the RTD down because of this
You can't get home tonight, right?
Oh, no, I'm just going to hang out here and go to school tomorrow.
Because why? The RTD buses are not going?
All our RTDs or buses are shut down and everything.
When you saw what happened here?
I was standing out here, they were like taking canes and going through the windows, bashing the windows up, taking all the garbage and stuff and they had in there, all the materials and stuff.
Okay, very good. Thanks a lot, Jeff. No problem. So again, it's a situation developing right now in Westwood. And again, there appears to be something happening to my left. We'll go check that out right now and get back with you.
Dave, it's been an area where they have seen violence before. When Boys in the Hood was shown in area theaters, right. There was rioting in the streets that night and looting as well. So it is an area with a history.
We'll check back in with you, Dave, as you continue to follow the situation there. Dave Barker in Westwood. The violence tonight not confined to South Central Los Angeles. As we've seen, it's been downtown. Now it's in Westwood.
I suspect Mayor Bradley will have something to say about all of this very shortly. He had originally been planned to speak about 10 o'clock. That was set back about an hour. Clearly, he's assessing the situation, too, so that he can address it. And we'll be joining that just as soon as Mayor Bradley is ready to speak.
We're told he will be speaking in probably 3 to 5 minutes right now. We're looking across there at a situation. Now, where is that situation?
This would be downtown?
Right near the freeway. Is that the 405 we're looking at, the freeway in the distance? Or it can't be the Harbor Freeway because that's shut down.
Is it where Will spend?
Yeah, that's the Foothill. You're looking down Olive Street.
All right.
Okay. We're told the mayor will be going on television in just a few minutes, and we will be taking that live to bring it to you. He will be, Mayor Bradley will be addressing the city.
Will, why were the officers running?
It's a matter of something happens with the demonstrators, something is thrown perhaps, and the officers chase after.
If you'll stand by now for station identification right after that, we'll be right back with more live, continuous coverage.
You're watching KCBS TV Channel 2 Los Angeles.
People from their cars and even in some cases firing on police. We understand one fire department employee, one fireman has been shot. Patrick Healy has been in the area all night. He has the latest for us in this live report. I'm sorry, let's go to Fernell Chapman, I understand. Fernell.
Well, yes, John, I am in South Central Los Angeles, immediately behind the AME Church, where there was that big rally earlier. And as you can see, maybe a half a mile or so away from me is a major fire. This is only one of a number of major fires here in South Central Los Angeles. According to City Fire, there are now approximately 40 separate fires, significant fires, underway in South Central Los Angeles. All total, since about 7:30, we are informed, there have been in excess of 150 separate fires. As you mentioned, there has been one confirmed death. We are told a number of firefighting units who have tried to move into the area to put out some of these blazes have been fired upon. At least one helicopter has been fired upon. The drive from the studio in Burbank to here in South Central Los Angeles was something of a surreal experience for me. All the freeways are open, freeways are no problem, but once off the freeways, south of the Santa Monica Freeway into South Central Los Angeles, every few blocks, looting. There is evidence of looting every few blocks. A number of streets are barricaded, burned car shells. People are looting. There are people every mile or so. You can see them carrying goods from stores. There are several major fires here in South Central Los Angeles, as I mentioned. Where I am now is behind the AME Church, where there was a major rally in the black community earlier. If I could get the camera to move over just a little bit here, if possible. With me now is the Reverend Chip Murray. Reverend Murray, there was indeed a major rally here, many calls for peace, for restraint. That simply hasn't happened.
See if we can figure out where we are.
We haven't had your pictures available to us now in about half an hour while you've been refueling, Ron, but look around, would you, and tell me how many things do you see burning right now? A little while ago, it seemed like there were a dozen plus. How many now?
You know what, Ann, it doesn't seem to be much better than when I left for fuel. In fact, there could be even more fires out here. There's smaller fires. This is probably one of the biggest that I've seen right now, but at least as many, maybe more.
Well, there were 4 in that one pan right there that we saw, Ron.
And more on the horizon, actually. There's a lot of things burning, a lot of fires. There's 1, 2, 3.
And we heard from the fire people earlier tonight saying that a lot of these fires they simply cannot get to because A, they haven't got enough people, and B, they haven't got enough protection. They need to be protected when they respond to these fires. Ron,
perhaps that was no good reason to be looting that store, but there you have it. The fellow that Mike had been talking to said that's human nature. We always focus on the few who are doing the bad deeds.
Well, you know, they can say the justification for looting the ABC market is because it's owned by a Korean, and it was, after all, a Korean who shot Soon Ja-do, and they say there's no justice there. But how then does that explain the looting of Ralph's Market, the looting and the burning of all of those other places there?
This has been a city simmering on the edge for some time. Councilman Mark Ridley Thomas was telling Dave Lopez that they've known the level of anger that's out there. At the First AME Church tonight, they were talking about knowing the level of anger that was out there. They felt they hadn't been listened to. They felt that the backlash in the community had grown to a flashpoint, and tonight we've seen the result of that emotion.
I think what we're seeing is that there is no rhyme and no reason to rioting. There is only frustration, and that frustration is being seen and felt in violence throughout South Central Los Angeles tonight, as well as violence downtown outside the Parker Center. And we're going to listen to this interview right now.
This is what all this stuff is all about. All about. This is what all this riot is all about. They didn't do no riot.
It's the end of that tape, and here more tape shot earlier this evening from Foothill Division.
No, that's a live shot there, and that is the Foothill Division, outside the Foothill Division. That's correct. There was some violence there. Here's an overview of some of the areas affected. Of course, downtown there at the Parker Center, there was trouble outside that. Also, it spilled over and went down to the Federal Building and down to City Hall, down to a nearby new luxury hotel. South Central is where we've seen some of the worst rioting. At this point, it's safe to say that we're not fooling anybody by avoiding the use of that word. We've seen a number of people dragged from cars and beaten. We've seen a number of people, we saw one photographer who was hit by a 2x4, a number of people hit by rocks and bottles.
The mood earlier tonight, one of pleas for making this a time of sober reflection instead of a time for violence, have now been forgotten by lots of folks who are...
The governor has assisted us with a declaration of emergency so that in the event further assistance is needed, it will be able to respond very quickly. We're encouraging everyone to cooperate, stay off the streets. It's anticipated that a curfew will be put into effect tomorrow night. I think that the law enforcement people, fire personnel, the National Guard, Sheriff's Department, and all of the others who are joining in a coordinated effort are going to be able to keep this situation under control.
Mayor, we've spent...
Well, okay, that was Mayor Tom. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That was a surprising statement. The mayor just said that he believed that the fire department and the police department and the sheriff's office were going to be able to keep the situation under control. The rest of us are sitting here thinking it hasn't been in control for the last 4 hours or so, and it certainly doesn't look like it's in control right now. We got burning buildings all over South Central LA, and no end in sight.
35 fires, I believe the mayor said that they couldn't get to. Now that's got to give you some idea of how many fires we're talking about in total. Many more than we thought.
I believe Mayor Bradley is trying to put the best face on a very bad situation in that press conference that we just saw there.
He also talked about the possibility, and this is something we haven't talked about yet, of a curfew being clamped on the city of Los Angeles tomorrow night. I don't know what time, I don't know even if, but the mayor brought up that possibility, a curfew. in the city of Los Angeles.
We have an inferno that we're looking at from our live Newscopter 7 picture. Let's go to Captain Ron to tell us what we're looking at here, what kind of a building, if we know what it is and where it is. Ron?
Okay, and we're back at this Newton.
And as we showed you before, there had been some windows broken and a little bit of apparently some looting that had taken place on in some of the shops in Westwood. We saw a large collection of people on a street corner here, and they were being herded and rounded up by police officers who were walking the area, and they had parked their cars blocking traffic from one of the main streets. But as you can see, it's pretty quiet right now, and there's no large collection of people. Just a few moments ago, we had seen maybe 25, 35 people on one particular street corner. If you take a look just up to your left, Phil Arno, you'll see the crowd that's gathered on the street corner. If you move in just right there, you'll get a large number for Westwood of people that were gathered. You can see them right there.
Pictures of calm and order are a welcome sight tonight,
That's
David.
right. Yes, they certainly are, and the police have been on top of this one apparently rather quickly, Jerry and Tony, so that they had this in hand. But there was some broken glass and apparently some things stolen.
David, thank you. We're going to be talking now by phone to Steve Ruta of the LA City Fire Department. Do I have that right, Mr. Ruta?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, can you give us an assessment of what your force is doing tonight?
Right now, we have well over 40 major well-involved structures. I overheard radio traffic by one of our helicopter pilots reporting at least 30 large columns of smoke, which we refer to as loom-ups. So that we are really engaged in a major conflagration. As you see in this picture, firefighters are protecting the exposure of that apartment house next door to this structure. In all, we have 66 engines deployed, 37 truck companies, those are the hook and ladders, 25 rescue ambulances, and firefighters are being now escorted into some of the areas by LAPD. Earlier this evening, firefighters were going in, risking their lives unescorted. Some of our apparatus and firefighters were besieged with rocks and bottles, and some even took gunshot fire. One of our firefighters was shot, took a bullet in the head. He is in serious but condition at Cedars-Sinai right now, and the nature of his wounds is we report as fair at this time.
Can you tell us who that firefighter is, Captain?
No, not at this time. We don't have his name, but he was one of the active firefighters that was engaging in saving the community from this conflagration. The senseless violence that's being displayed by few. People have to realize that the firemen live in this community. This is our homes. We shop at these businesses. We protect them. We know the people in the community, and that the violence that is being displayed toward the fire department is senseless because this is our neighborhood also.
Captain Ruta, we had an earlier report of firefighters hiding in a building in the 900 block of West Vernon. Were they your people, and do you know anything about that?
Jerry, I have not heard of a reported to firefighters hiding in the building. Firefighters were being escorted into the area by LAPD, and I cannot confirm that firefighters were hiding in the structures. Firefighters are braving their lives this evening as we speak, fighting well over 40 large major fires in the south central area.
Captain, how do you assess which fires you are going to try to attack and which ones you're just going to leave that you simply can't get to?
It's almost like a medical incident. We almost have to triage where the incident commander at the scene will make the determination of whether or not the area is going to be accessible due to the violence that's being displayed toward the fire department. Our main goal is to protect lives and exposures, like some of those shots that your helicopter pilots are portraying. Those itself are gone, and what we need to do is protect the exposures to the left and the right of the fire building. One thing that we do ask of the helicopter pilots is if they could report, if they see a fire breakout, if they could report to you the location.
What's going on in the rest of downtown Los Angeles? I thought that after Parker Center it seemed to be calming down, but then we had one pocket of riot activity after another, and it seemed to spread. And when you're in the thick of it, it's very difficult to feel that it's calming down, even though it may be diminishing as the night goes on.
All right, thank you very much for that, Laurel.
All right, interesting to see sheriff's deputies downtown. There's been a state of emergency declared in both the city of Los Angeles and L.A. County now, and the two forces will be working together undoubtedly until this is all calmed down. We're going to go back to the helicopter. Cliff Welsh is up, as he has been all night. Another big fire breaking out. Cliff, where are you?
Okay, John, right now we're down at Crenshaw and Slauson, and this is the southeast quadrant of that whole intersection. It used to be the old Mesa Theater was across the street there. It's no longer there. They've got a restaurant in there, and there was a girls' school down in this area. But right now we're looking down at Crenshaw and Slauson. Our previous location was up there, of course, at La Brea and Rodeo Road. And it looks like they have a major warehouse. Well, actually, it's a mini mall down here, a shopping center, and pretty much the whole thing is just about shot.
Cliff, this is Kelly. Let me ask you the same question I asked Laurel. She's in a spot where she can't really get an overview. You, of course, are the ultimate overview from your vantage. Are you seeing over the last several hours at this point escalation, calming down, or staying the same? What do you think?
Well, Kelly, everything I've seen just seems like there's more of the same, and every time they seem to get one knocked down or one burns out, why, then something else pops up. To get out of the way, having a little helicopter over here, we'll get outside of him and still give you a picture. But Kelly, it just seems like it just keeps going, and it's escalating, I guess would be the term. Pardon me for the frog. We've been up here for quite a while, but looking out to the southeast of this location, I can see about 4 or 5 new fires that I didn't see earlier.
That's a spectacular scene. As you pointed out, you've seen up to 25 fires at one point, and originally in south central Los Angeles, and then they were spread all the way up into downtown L.A., and as we reported earlier, smoke so thick from these fires, it's affecting now the approach to LAX.
Yes, it is. And what they're doing now, they're making the approaches over the water and their departures over the water and trying to avoid this area at all costs because it's very thick black smoke. It's not a real good situation.
So nothing is being diverted from LAX itself. It's just the approach and the takeoffs that are diverted just along different routes. Is that right, Cliff?
That's correct. So all the schedules are pretty much the same. There might be some slight delays, but I don't think you're going to have any problems. The airport is wide open, and looking down that way, it's very clear and a very nice evening, as a matter of fact.
We want to put out there that if you are involved in airport traffic to and from, you should be sure to stay on the west side and not to go anywhere near this area.
And Cliff, firefighters, I assume, are doing what they've been doing all night, which is just trying to contain as best they can and keep these fires from spreading, because by the time they get to most of them, they're already in trouble.
That's the truth, and the fire department is doing a heck of a job. They're just spread so thin, they can't be everywhere at one time. And the boundaries of this thing now probably go from about, as far south as Century Boulevard, as far west now as La Brea, and as far east as Alameda. So it's quite a large area.
A very sobering issue here. We're told that the Office of Emergency Services, the OES, has ordered up 200 units of body armor for these firefighters who are in there doing the job. One firefighter, as you know, has been shot and taken to hospital.
That's the truth, and one of the media helicopters made a precautionary landing. He said he felt some lumps and thumps, and I don't know what might have happened there, but I got my fingers crossed for him. I think he got it on the ground. He's checking out the machine.
Well, this is the kind of hellish scene that we all were afraid we'd see one day in the city of Los Angeles. We thought if we saw it, we'd see it because of an earthquake, a natural disaster. We never thought we'd see this kind of destruction, which has caused incalculable damage. It'll be days before we know the damage toll. We never thought we'd see it caused by human hands.
And John, let me add something here. It just, it almost looks like a war zone. And what came to mind, right across at this intersection, if you're old as I am, well, you remember a theater called the Mesa. I went to school right down in this area. And when I came out of the Mesa Theater on a Sunday morning, December 7th of 1941, I think I was about 8 or 9 years old at the time, and they said we're at war, and I really didn't understand it. I do now.
Electricity here, all the lights have been turned off. Now, right behind us, over to that way, that's the Crenshaw Boulevard, and it's very difficult to get it on tape right now, but there's an orange glow over one of these RTD buildings. We were told that there is a series of fires all along Crenshaw Boulevard, all along the business district. Not only fires, but a lot of looting. And so it's the police have been coming out. there's so much sporadic activity going on that it's relatively impossible to quell all of the disturbances. But also they brought in a couple of battering rams, mini tanks. That's about the only way that I can describe them. What they're going to use them for, I really don't know. There's about 600 officers. They keep coming and they keep going, heavily armed, all of them. There's also the Metro SWAT unit teams that have been coming in and out. In fact, right now we still have some more black and whites coming in. That fire seems to be gaining momentum. It's a lot bigger. It's relatively close. And it shows that there is rampant activity going on simply because this is where the police hang out right now. But fires are popping up all over the place. Some of the people that were here earlier on the block have all left for home. But here are some of the police cars that are coming back. Now, I don't know if they're coming back or of these new guys, but this has been a location for about 600 officers. It's going to be a busy place throughout the night into the early morning. That fire, you can see, is still gaining momentum. I really can't tell whether it's a business or a series of homes, but all of a sudden it just erupted. We saw some of the, it was like a mini explosion that we could see, and that's the extent of the event here right now. Reporting live, I'm Henry Alfaro. Back to you in the studio.
Henry, earlier tonight, the mayor declared a disaster area. He asked the governor to declare a disaster, which means that the National Guard would be coming in. We had official word that they were on their way. I suspect a good number of people watching us right now are fearing for their families and their safety. Do you know anything about the National Guard? Are they here yet?
No, as of right now, all we've heard is the fact that there's going to be about 1,000 men coming down here. They probably will be coming down here in this area because this is the focal point of all of the activity. There is so many things going on in this particular part of town that this is where they're going to be used.
Okay, Henry, we have information now that we knew earlier that one person had been killed, and we'd been talking in the neighborhood of a few dozen who had been admitted to Daniel Freeman Hospital. That hospital now says 72 people have been admitted to the emergency room at Daniel Freeman Memorial. Injuries ranging from minor to critical, according to the hospital spokeswoman, who said that one person had been killed. I believe that was a gunshot. Fire Department spokesman Bob Collis says firefighters have had at least 40 fire calls. Unclear how many were actually blazes. I would guess most of them, because we've already had word that there were 35 fires that the city couldn't get to. And we've seen a lot of them right here on the news tonight.
And we are assuming, of course, that that these fires are all related to what went on earlier today and what went on earlier tonight. I suppose there's a chance that maybe one or two of them isn't, but we really don't know that at this point.
Well, we've been watching a night of fires. Probably the fires are the single thing that sticks in the imagination the most as we've watched this night go by. It started with rocks and bottles being thrown and motorists being pulled out of cars and beaten up. And there have been confrontations between police and protesters, but the thing that really marks this night are these hellish fires. One commercial building after another, and Captain Ron had the newscopter scanning the horizon for us not too long ago, and you literally could see a new fire every time he moved a few feet. It was just boom, 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 one more, one more, one more. Most of them, we assume, burning pretty much unchecked.
Well, and one of the finest fire departments in the United States, and really...
Between yourself and the territory down below, so that is your altitude higher than it was, and you're not getting as close to some of the action?
Unfortunate to report that it's really not much different right now, Jerry. It's we've been lucky, I think, early on since about 6 o'clock tonight to not have had anything directed our way, at least not that we could tell. There was a Los Angeles Police Department helicopter that landed to inspect for apparently bullets that had hit that particular helicopter earlier. But we are not over the same fire where that happened. We did get out of that area rather quickly, which was over on Vermont Avenue, and we just don't happen to be over that fire. But I hate to say this, I assume when I look down below that, you know, gunfire like that could erupt out of any given block or any given home. It's apparently fairly difficult to cause a lot of damage to a helicopter shooting straight up unless you have a high-powered weapon of some sort. A handgun won't do it. So we've been able to hold our own throughout this, but we did get a little bit scared when that hit underneath us pretty hard.
Okay. At this juncture, David, we're going to tell people that Governor Wilson is expected to make a live address, a statement at 11:45. That's in 20 minutes from now. And we had been promising you all evening that we'd have Mayor Bradley for you. We do have a statement from Mayor Bradley on tape now.
Following the verdict in the case of the 4 officers who were engaged in the beating of Rodney King a year ago, a number of acts of vandalism, shootings, with some people pulled out of their automobiles and assaulted, that matter was brought under control. We now have sporadic fires throughout the city. At the last report, there were about 50 fires, and they were so scattered that the fire personnel were not able to get to 35 of these fires. That has caused us to seek assistance from the County of Los Angeles, from surrounding cities, and we're very pleased with that spirit of cooperation. They've offered us not only sheriffs, police officers, Highway Patrol has now been assigned to assist, and the National Guard has been placed on alert. We believe that the situation is now simmering down, pretty much under control, and the governor has assisted us with a declaration of emergency so that in the event further assistance is needed, it will be able to respond very quickly. We're encouraging everyone to cooperate, stay off the streets. It's anticipated that a curfew will be put into effect tomorrow night. I think that the law enforcement people, fire personnel, the National Guard, Sheriff's Department, and all of the others who are joining in a coordinated effort are going to be able to keep this situation under control.
We should tell you, Mayor Bradley made that statement a while ago, and things in South Central Los Angeles have not cooled down. Fires are, and as you saw in the last picture we had just a few minutes ago, that major boys complex there in flames. We're going to Pat Harvey now in our news department for another update. You know, there was talk earlier, and Pat, maybe from where you are, you can tell me this. The National Guard that was appealed for, 2,000 National Guardsmen. Have you heard anything more as to when they may be deployed, if they'll be deployed, or whether they're coming down here?
Have no word on that, Jerry. Just the latest we've heard is that the governor's office is aware of the request and is supposed to be making an effort to mobilize those troops. When they will get here, or even if they are en route, is still a question. We don't have an answer for you on that one, Jerry.
And Ron, we are going to go now to Mark Brown, who's at Daniel Freeman Hospital. Mark?
Yes, we are live at Daniel Freeman Hospital, where, as you can see right now, another injured person is being brought in. We have no indication how bad off that person is, but we know there are a lot of people here at Daniel Freeman Hospital who have been brought in with a lot of different kinds of injuries ranging from bumps and bruises all the way to gunshot wounds. I'm here now with Daniel McLean. He is the Chief Executive Officer here at Daniel Freeman Hospital. I understand there has been a second death. Can you confirm that for me, sir?
Yes, that's true. We've pronounced our second dead person as a result of these activities.
And what did that second person, I understand it was a man, what did he die of?
He died of multiple trauma injuries related to apparently falling out of an automobile.
What can you tell me about who's in there right now, the number of critical patients, people in surgery? Kind of break it down for me, if you would.
We've treated approximately 50 people in the emergency room for a variety of problems, as you said earlier. We've had 2 deaths. We have 1 critical patient in surgery at this time, and we have 4 other critical patients that have been admitted to the hospital.
Obviously, this is a lot higher patient load than you're used to. How did you react to this? How did you get geared up for it?
Well, Daniel Freeman, like all hospitals, has a disaster plan, which we exercise regularly. Being prepared for these types of disasters is part of what we do, being an active emergency hospital. We activated our disaster plan, which brought in additional staff for the emergency room, operating room, and nursing staff, and have been able to treat everyone who's come in. We've turned no one away.
You told me about the remarks of one nurse who was activated to Desert Storm. Tell me about what she said.
One comment that I did hear from a nurse that was there during Desert Storm was that this particular activity during the peak of it was worse than anything that she'd seen in Desert Storm.
How about you? You've been in this business a while, haven't you?
This is as intensive activity in an emergency room and is about as bad as I've ever seen.
Okay, how many critical did you say? You've got 4 critical at this time?
We have 4 admitted to the hospital, a 5th that's in surgery.
Okay.
So 5 total.
And the people that are critically injured, what sort of injuries do they have?
Different types of trauma. I'm not familiar with all of their injuries.
Okay, obviously the folks here at Daniel Freeman trying to deal with it. Thank you very much, Daniel McLean of Daniel Freeman Hospital. Like other hospitals in this area right now, they are swamped. They are doing the best they can to deal with it. The advice, I would guess, to anyone who's just stay outside and you might avoid being injured and having to come to the hospital and deal with this. Reporting live from the city of Inglewood, I'm Mark Brown. Now back to you.
Thanks very much, Mark.
Confirming our second death related to the violence, the rioting, the fires that have been going on now for the better part of 4 to 5 hours.
While we watch as Los Angeles continues to burn, we can tell you that several Los Angeles Unified School District campuses will be closed down tomorrow because of the rioting. Superintendent William Anton of LA Unified School District has called for closure of all schools and offices bounded by Adams Boulevard to the north, Imperial Highway south, La Cienega on the west, and Alameda on the east. And nobody could say immediately just how many schools that would be, but she's emphasizing school buses will not pick up or drop off any students who live in that area but attend schools in other part of the district either. So they're just not going to be going in there to teach school or to pick kids up either. We also have Catholic Archdiocese, the Los Angeles Catholic Archdiocese, saying that Catholic elementary and high schools will be closed also in South Central LA area tomorrow. Catholic School Superintendent Jerome Porath saying all schools closed in basically the same area: Adams Boulevard North, Imperial Highway South, Central Avenue East, and La Cienega on the west. And the Compton Unified School District saying now that classes will be canceled tomorrow because of the rioting. So we do have a partial list of the LA Unified Schools that will be closed tomorrow. We can go through Bret Hart Junior High, Samuel Gompers Junior High,
Drew Junior High, Edison Junior High, Carver Junior High, Forshey Junior High, Audubon Junior High, Fremont High School, Washington High School,
Locke High School, Jordan High, Jefferson High, Crenshaw High, Manual Arts High School, and Dorsey High School. All of those schools will be closed tomorrow, and we can assume if there are that many of the secondary schools, a great many elementary schools will be closed tomorrow as well. And Mayor Bradley's talking about a curfew tomorrow. It is a city in deep trouble tonight.
We have been talking about the police response, the timing of the police response. We have an officer on the line. We're going to get to her in just a minute. She's from the Wilshire Division. We're very anxious to talk to her about what's going on. First, though, Jeff Michael out at Foothill. Jeff?
Sergeant, what's the location?
They're live on the car.
Okay, I'm sorry, we didn't hear you. We just had some officers who tore out of here as fast as you can believe. They're going to another call. We're going to show you something that so far a lot of people haven't been able to see tonight. We've made a decision, as all of you know, down in South Central Los Angeles, not to go into the area that has been hit. However, out here in Foothill, we can get to an area that is now Code 4 that's been cleared. Here's the A&D liquor store. It was looted not too long ago. You can tell that they bashed it in either with a car or they very possibly used the cement parking thing to go ahead and bash it in and then pull the stuff out. In fact, the car was parked here, ready to load up, and that's when the LAPD officers came and got everybody out of here. There was certainly some violence that went on here. There was some violence that went on down at the scene where Rodney King was originally arrested at Foothill Boulevard in Osborne, and there was also some violence earlier tonight at the Foothill Division Police Station. If we have some of that tape, we can go to that right now. Do we have that? Okay,
There's a lot of changes that need to be made. We do not need to be violent. We need to join together in forces other than violence. We do not need to show any more ignorance.
Don't go out and destroy your own communities. Don't resort to violence. Just stand up, show your support, and do what you have to do, but don't resort to violence because we're not hurting anybody but ourselves.
We have to show him what kind of people we really are. We need to pull together all minorities, and that's what we're here doing. We're pulling together and becoming one against this injustice.
Sir, you just said you had 4 words for us.
Yeah, wait till William gets here.
Wait till Willie Williams gets here.
That's it.
Do you believe that Commissioner Williams, new Police Chief Williams, will make a difference?
it's going to make a difference. Believe me, it's going to make a difference.
Obviously, those people were not at Foothill Division headquarters. Those were the very, very responsible protesters at Foothill and Osborne who were out to make a call. They were out to, they were getting people to honk in support of their cause and in objection to the not guilty verdicts that were read earlier today. Those people have for the most part, gone home here in the Foothill area, in Pacoima as well. The people who remain are the people who are causing trouble, the gangbangers, and of course we're back down live now looking at the fires in South Central LA. No fires out here in the Foothill area. In Pacoima, we had one dumpster fire, certainly nothing of this order, and police in the Foothill Division are very, very thankful for that as well. You know, it's a double-edged sword for these men and women out here. This is the division where the 4 officers who were charged with the beating of Rodney King originally served. There is a lot of animosity against the men out here, the men and women who are out trying to bring calm to the streets on Foothill Boulevard and in this area. But for now, we're going to go ahead and, in fact, break down. When you first came to us, Paul and Ann, as I said, a squad of officers rushed out of here to go to another location. We're going to go ahead and check that out and find out if there's anything else going on out here. For now, reporting live from Foothill Boulevard, I'm Jeff Michael. Back to both of you.
Thanks, okay, Jeff, good enough. Can we go up to Captain Ron very quickly to give you an idea of the intensity in some of these fires? Ron, what are you feeling up there?
I'll tell you, Paul, this is quite a strong one, and we've noticed this in a couple other ones, and Dave and I were just talking about it. Sometimes when we make the orbit around these fires, we'll get in just the right positions, and we can actually feel the heat from these huge, intense fires against us at this time. It kind of warms the air. That normally the air up here right now is pretty cool. Poor Dave has his jacket on trying to stay warm, but every once in a while we'll go around here and we can actually feel that intense heat from these fires. You can see what we're looking at as Dave zooms in on that thing.
Okay, you know, we have Officer Gina Holstrom of LAPD's Wilshire Division who's been on our beeper phone here for the last few minutes. Why don't we go to her now? Officer Holstrom, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
What can you tell us? Where are you right now, ma'am?
Well, I'm at home watching the broadcast, and in particular, I wanted to address your question of the LAPD's lack of initial response to this looting and violence.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just very concerned, and I wanted to assure the public that LAPD didn't go into hiding. We weren't trying to avoid the situation, that it's a very volatile situation. You've got a large group of people, and that until we can form a plan and get out there, probably our presence is going to hurt the matter more than it is going to help it.
Well, that's what we were speculating earlier, is that your police department might have been trying to let the earlier demonstration at that first intersection kind of cool off and lose steam on its own before you went in, and try not to inflame it by going in and being confrontational. Is that the idea?
That's the idea. Normally, the general rule of thumb with the LAPD is you want to either equal the amount of suspects or outnumber them. And obviously in this situation it's going to be impossible. We just don't have enough officers to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to try and come as close to that as we can. And I think that if you send, you know, 1 squad car or 2 or 3 or 4 squad cars in a situation where you've got a group of people, you're going to have, you know, possibly an even more violent confrontation.
Officer Holstrom, we assume then that this response was pre-planned. I know that there was a response plan in the works, and we assume that this is exactly what was planned in case this sort of thing happened.
Oh yeah, you know, we have a set of procedures, an emergency operation guide that we go by and that we constantly train for. But the magnitude of this is just unbelievable. And with 8,000 officers, you just can't even start to, you know, cover the whole thing. It's overwhelming.
Give us a sense of how many of those officers would be on duty right now. How do you work that? Are you going to be called in? Are people going to be called in to work overtime? I assume they are.
Well, as they mentioned before, the department is divided up into 2 shifts, the A shift and the B shift. They're 12-hour shifts. I'll be going in tomorrow at 6 in the morning, and I'll work till 6 at night. These officers that you see on TV will go off duty at 6 in the morning, and they'll be called back in at 6 p.m. That day. Now, as far as detectives and the people that work non-uniform jobs, I'm not quite sure how they work that. Although we do have 8,000 officers, those aren't the amount of officers that are going to be available to actually man squad cars and go out and patrol the streets. It's going to be a lot less.
Were any vacations or days off canceled with this coming up this week?
Well, I'm on a day off tomorrow, so, you know, that kind of answers your question. As far as vacations, I don't know about that.
But you will be going in on your day off.
Oh, absolutely.
We wish you luck.
Thank you.
And
we do.
thank you very much for calling and explaining to us what was going on.
You're welcome.
Officer Gina Holstrom from LAPD's Worcester Division. We are in her debt for calling and answering some of the questions we were asking on the air. A couple of things briefly. There's a landmark shopping center for more than 3 decades at the corner of La Brea and Rodeo Drive, anchored by a large thrifty drugstore. It is on fire. That's not the one you're seeing now, I don't think. It's being danger of being destroyed. Captain Ron, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Paul.
That's not that location there, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay. And also the Chief Administrative Officer, Richard Dixon, has declared a state of emergency in Los Angeles County. He said after conferring with Sheriff Sherman Block and Supervisor Dean Dana, he issued the declaration. He also requested that Governor Pete Wilson place the National Guard on alert status. That, according to a sheriff spokesman. We assume that is going to be...
some looters?
We assume, yes, go ahead.
Sure.
Okay, look right.
I don't know whether you were talking to us, Ron, or not, but...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's all right.
Just a
Feel
little
free.
bit west of this fire, we've got a whole bunch of looters that is occurring at the ABC market again. And you'll see these guys just running in and out, loading up their cars and driving off.
Is this the same ABC market we watched being looted a couple hours ago?
No, this is another one. We're actually about 5 miles north of that location. We're actually, maybe 2 miles south of the Civic Center at this time, and we're east of the Harbor Freeway. However, the same thing is occurring at this one as it was in the one that we were looking at 5 miles south from here. And you can see people are just absolutely going crazy as they go in here and steal from it. Just south of this location, all of the area is blacked out. There's no lights out here. The electricity is out. For some reason, the lights are on in that market, and people are going in and helping themselves to that stuff.
I hardly think these are people that are in their own way trying to protest the verdicts against the officers accused of beating Rodney King, Ron.
That could be, Paul. That could be.
No, I just don't. I hardly think. I think these are people that, as we've talked all night, see an opportunity. Hey, look what's on television.
That's right.
Let's go do something. And I'm not trying to indict any of them. I just have that feeling.
But when you think about what this is going to do to these neighborhoods, it is tragic for more than just the loss that will be suffered by a company, although the many businesses that will be put under here because of losing buildings and losing goods is something. But what about these neighborhoods now? If these stores close up and don't come back, what happens to the people who live in these neighborhoods and now have to travel even further to get to a store?
It's really a shame, isn't it, Ann? And you notice as we're watching this thing, we can actually see people drive into the parking lot. We'll watch them run in and ride out. I mean, they'll pick up their stuff, put it in their car, and go. And this is happening just at this moment while we're watching this. Now, we also are watching as we've got some foot traffic. I think Dave can pick that up. You'll see that guy right in the center of your screen running across, running right into the store, getting what he's after, and then coming out.
Well, you know, John North said it very well a few minutes ago, Ron. He said that these people, and I assume if they live in, they're really helping destroy their own neighborhood.
That's true, Paul.
Economically, spiritually, morally, in every way. That's what they're doing.
It's really sad, isn't it, Paul?
And you know, you stop and think, this sort of thing, this looting business happens anytime that there's a perceived breakdown in law and order, or the perception that there's so much going on that the police won't be able to get and touch you. It happens during major earthquakes. It happens during all kinds of major disasters where there's always one caliber of people who goes in and takes advantage of the situation and makes it worse for everybody.
It has happened on the scene of plane crashes, where people
Even
go in and loot
crashes.
dead bodies.
Right, right. It's sickening, but we're watching it in action right now in our country, and it's a phenomenon that happens around the world.
All right, Henry Alfaro's at our command center. Henry, come on in. Henry Alfaro.
Yes.
Go ahead.
This is called the Crenshaw Town Center, what's left of it right now. We've had fires burning out of control. That building has been completely demolished, or completely burned down, you might say. Every building along this area has been either broken into or has been gutted by fire. On the other side, as we go along here, we see Thrifties. It seems relatively okay, but it's hard to say. Right behind us here is a boys' market. You can see litter everywhere. Obviously, it was looted. Surprisingly, it's still standing. The fires haven't hit it. But the buildings over to the right of it, as well as to the left, have all been broken into. There's litter throughout this entire shopping center. It's a huge complex. There's about 10 fire trucks right now, and right across the street, there's another fire that's going down. And from the looks of it, right across the street, it's completely burned down. A lot of people are out in this area right now. We saw looting everywhere coming up on Vernon, I guess it was, that we came up on. Liquor stores, stores of all kind. It's just been an impossible task for the Los Angeles City, as well as county fire departments, that literally all hell is breaking loose in this part of the city. As I mentioned, the Boys Market completely ransacked. Right now with us is one of the public information officers of the fire department. Your name, please.
Brian Jordan.
What do we see here, Brian? What's the extent?
Basically what we have is, looks like almost total destruction of several businesses. We have 5 engine companies on scene. They couldn't move in right away because they had to wait for a police escort. When the units got here, they had the police come first. The police units are here in SWAT gear protecting the firefighters, and they have had a couple bottles thrown at the police officers. We do have a fire across the street, and we have units that are going over there right now to attempt to knock that one down. The Boys Market here on our left. Yeah. Apparently somebody tried to start a fire there, and they had fire sprinklers. The fire sprinklers knocked that fire down. Boys Market's still here.
How long has all of these fires been going on?
I'm not sure when the fire started. I believe it was earlier this evening. These fires here obviously progressed for a while. We can't actually move into the area until we have adequate police escort.
Was it tough getting in here?
It was tough getting in. We had people blocking hydrants. We had firefighters attempting to connect hose to the hydrants, and did have rocks or bottles thrown at them. The police did take care of that problem.
Any injuries for fire department officials?
None on this scene. I'm not sure with the other scenes. We have no injuries here at Crenshaw and Slauson.
Well, again, the Crenshaw Town Center completely demolished. As they mentioned that the fire was attempted over here at the Boys Market. The sprinkler systems went on, but this is really a destruction zone. Nothing is left. Fires here right behind me, fires across the street. As was indicated, that there were problems of the fire department getting in here because they were being threatened. The only way that they could come in here was through police escort, as well as members of the SWAT unit who are still standing by. So a terrible scene, a war zone, you might say. Very little is going to be left of this place, and unfortunately there's going to be a lot of people, the business people that provide the various types of services to the community here. It's going to be the community that really suffers in the end. A lot of anger, of course, and a lot of destruction. Reporting live from the Crenshaw Town Center, I'm Henry Alfaro. Back to you.
Henry, can you hear me?
Pardon?
Can you hear me? It's Ann.
Yes.
What is the street location of the Crenshaw Town Center? What are the cross streets there where you are?
The cross streets are Crenshaw and Slauson.
Okay.
Crenshaw and Slauson. I might add that all along Crenshaw, there have been additional fires and reports of additional lootings. We were on our way over to the South Bureau of the LAPD when we spotted this, and we stopped off, and here you have this pathetic and tragic scene.
You know, we had a news bulletin here that one other landmark shopping center that's been for more than 3 decades at the corner of La Brea and Rodeo. That shopping center there with a large thrifty store was on fire, and that would be, I guess, just a little west of where you are.
Yes.
And so we've got 2 major shopping centers going up in flames then.
2 major shopping centers, the fire department reporting 31 fires up to this moment, 100 other emergency calls, looting and burning of shopping centers. We have an update on injuries and fatalities. The first fatality was a man killed by gunfire. A hospital spokesman, that Daniel Freeman, I believe, says at least 4 other people are in critical condition. One is the truck driver who was pulled from his truck and beaten by rioters in south central Los Angeles.
The other person who was killed
tonight.
apparently was a person who had also been pulled out of a car and sustained enough trauma injury that he or she was killed.
Pulled out of a
also.
car or jumped or fell, I'm not
Something
sure.
like that, yes.
The police department, we are told now, is facing a crisis situation. Tonight is asking reserve officers to call their stations. All line reserve and technical reserve officers asked to call their respective stations. That, according to police spokesman Sharon Michelson. Michelson said officials hope the media would help to get the word out. We're doing our part. All line reserve and technical reserve officers asked to call their respective stations immediately.
Now we're looking at a picture of a shopping area burning, and we've been watching fires burning all night. We have been on the air for 5 hours, and we began just before 7 o'clock with the happenings at that one intersection. And as night fell, we began to see these fires, and they continue and continue, and we have, I think we have at least 40 of them at this point. Most of the ones we've seen have burned right down to their foundations and have been left a bed of glowing ash on top of whatever foundation they had. The city is in a state of chaos, really, a state of emergency called by the mayor tonight. National Guard's supposed to be en route, and we've been told that Governor Wilson may be addressing us live here sometime within the next half hour.
I would suspect that's going to come pretty soon, and I would also suspect that he will make it official and the National Guard will be sent in, because this does not look like it's getting better. It looks like it's getting worse, at least in terms of the number of fires that we are seeing.
Well,
we thought we were going to come down here at 7 o'clock and do an hour on the verdict and go home. How wrong we were.
We've heard from at least one family that lives in the area where these fires have been burning for this evening, and a gentleman who came in from Colorado, I believe he said. He was not a native Angelino, and he said that he was basically very upset, and he had 2 little girls who were unable to go to sleep tonight, and he wasn't quite sure what to tell them about what was happening, but there were people running in the streets, there were fire department trucks going by, there was sirens, there was fires around him, looting and all kinds of horror going on around him, and he was sitting in his house wondering what in the world was going on, and feeling, as he should feel, very unsafe tonight.
And he
Sad
obviously
situation
represents the majority of people in Southern California and the majority of people in that area. There was no question about it. We heard from an LAPD officer from the Wilshire Division. She was kind enough to call in about 10 minutes ago and explain to us why the LAPD waited. She explained to us what the procedure is, what their, as she knew it, what their plans were, and why they did not respond immediately to that first incident. She said that they've got to have at least as many officers as there are suspects, and I believe that they were walking that thin line. If we respond, will it incite more violence? If we don't respond, will it spread? It's a tough place to be in if you're making those calls.
It's especially tough because you can't say, oh, it's only going to be happening in this part of town. There have been problems at Foothill. There have been problems in Boyle Heights that we at least had reference to here in the wire copy that's been coming in. Problems in the Civic Center. Reports of problems in Westwood. We've got shopping centers burning at La Brea and Rodeo, and at Crenshaw and Slauson, and spot fires breaking out all over town. Just an unending list of hot spots and trouble spots, and you can only spread yourself so thin. You can't be everywhere at once. It's a very dangerous time for the city.
This ordinarily, and you can see it when you're coming in on an airliner from the east over the city of Los Angeles and the basin, and you're landing toward the west. And it's a beautiful sight at night with the lights twinkling and the traffic and the cars and the headlights. Can you imagine what it looks like now?
Well, remember, we had word that they were trying to divert some of the air traffic around the city because the smoke. Now, this was a couple hours ago, wasn't it? Maybe back like 9:30 or 10? Maybe even earlier than that. We had word that the FAA was diverting some of the air traffic over the LA basin because the smoke at that time was so thick as to be a hazard. So
all right.
That's a while back.
I'm Paul Moyer with Ann Martin. We'll take 5 seconds now for a station break. You're watching Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
This is an Eyewitness News special report.
Okay. I guess the FCC says we have to do that. I'm not sure exactly why we did it, but when we're told to do it, we do it.
So we did it. We are keeping you up to date, trying to stay up to date ourselves on a very terrible night in the city of Los Angeles. Rioting and looting and a lot of burning going on. Apparently most of it either, I don't know if it's fair to say in response to the jury verdicts. Certainly the opportunity was seized in the wake of unhappiness over the jury verdicts, but it's not fair to say that this is protest.
Well,
I think we've decided that this is seizing the moment.
What we do know is the verdict came in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There was a lot of reaction to it. A lot of people were angry. People of all races, people of all creeds were angry. There was reaction. There were meetings planned. There were calls for nonviolence and calm. There were a number of protests that we showed you. And then all of a sudden, there was the violence at Normandy and, I think I'm losing it here, Florence? Florence and Normandy. And then all of a sudden, there were these fires. Now, you know, what's connected to what, we're not exactly sure. But we've heard other people say that probably a majority of these incidents of the fires and the looting are people that simply said, look, let's take advantage of this and go out and burn and loot, basically.
Well, we've had reporters downtown, for instance, who watched as the composition of the crowd changed. What began in front of Parker Center as a protest of people who were unhappy over the verdicts, little by little that group disappeared, and suddenly it was a whole different type of person who was there. As Linda Moore and Linda Breakstone were telling us, these were gangbanger types who were setting fires in the Civic Center, setting fire to trees, throwing waste baskets or waste cans into the windows at the newspaper building, knocking down newspaper vending machines, and having confrontations with the police downtown. And it was a different sort of person than the ones who had come out and made relatively peaceful protests earlier.
Well, you know, there was a lot of passion in those protests. There were a lot of passion in the verbal responses. There was a lot of passion. We saw one there in front of the courthouse in Simi Valley, where 3 women were debating this thing and going at each other verbally. And when they were done, they were done.
Yeah.
Not what we're seeing now.
No. Mark Brown is on the wire here. We're going to go out to him. He's got one of our news cameras, and we're not even sure at this point where he is. He's been in a lot of places tonight, so we'll just ask you, Mark, where are you?
Well, we're at Daniel Freeman Hospital right now, and you can see a van just pulled up. I don't know if that's, that might be a news crew, but people have been coming in, private vehicles rushing in here, bringing in patients, bringing in people who've been injured. Let's take a look at some video we shot just a little bit ago. And as we take a look at that, we can show you, this young man here who was brought in with leg injuries, possible broken leg, they think. He was hit by a brick. And there were other people who've been admitted here as well, with injuries ranging from bumps and bruises all the way to major trauma. That young man there brought in by ambulance as well. It's really something here. They are in a crisis situation right now. They've reported their second death. We have a little bit more information about the second person who died. He was a 25-year-old man who fell from the back of a flatbed truck, suffered head trauma, and died of those injuries not too long ago, about half an hour ago or so. It's quite a scene here. They have got 4 people in critical condition, one of them in surgery at this time. They've seen about 50 patients. There's about 25 people still waiting inside the waiting room, waiting to be looked at. A lot of wailing, a lot of crying. There's a lot of suffering going on in there, both from the people who are injured and from their relatives who are anxiously bringing them in. And it seems as though as soon as an ambulance comes in, dumps the person off, they're right back out of here, and they go off with the sirens wailing, code 3 full on, speeding down the street. They're obviously, it's a very busy night, and I can just imagine what other hospitals in the area are going through right now. This is the scene here at Daniel Freeman. I'm wondering what it could be like at MLK, King Hospital, Cedars-Sinai, some of the other places around here. We know that they are very busy out here, and but they're coping. They're in their emergency situation. They have called in extra doctors, extra staff to deal with it, and patients are being seen and triaged and dealt with. Reporting live here at Daniel Freeman Hospital in Inglewood, I'm Mark Brown. Now back to you.
Mark, can you give me a sense of what sort of injuries people are coming in with? I mean, are they injuries that they've received in fights? Are they injuries where they've been hit with a brick? What kind of thing are we seeing there?
We're seeing, well, I can tell you this. The person that I spoke to, the hospital administrator, couldn't break down the exact types of injuries most people are seeing, but they have bumps and bruises, some of them, all the way up to major trauma. What we have seen, though, we're up in the parking lot seeing some of the cars that were brought in. Several of them had huge holes in the windshield from bricks. Several had bricks thrown through the windows. Those people obviously suffered some pretty major injuries. One car, a red Honda, driven by a woman, we know that. is still sitting up there right now. Both side windows were knocked out. There are pieces of the brick on the inside of the car. We know that woman is hurt pretty badly. But aside from that, we don't have an official breakdown of exactly who is injured and how badly.
That's okay. That's
All right,
a better idea than we had
Mark,
before.
I'm sorry.
Thanks,
Okay.
Mark.
Thank you, Mark, very much. We heard from Captain Ron. We've got Ron on the brain tonight. Captain Ron earlier about a shopping center that was going up in flames. And Henry Alfaro was showing us, too, in the Crenshaw area. I think we've got Linda Moore somewhere near there now. Linda? Linda Moore.
Okay, you can see we're just running around crazy here tonight. This is unbelievable. Right across the street, we've got a huge fire burning. You just saw that a minute ago at the Thrifty drugstore. Here, you've got Foot Locker and every other building that's adjacent to it. We're south of the 10 freeway here. And the amazing thing here tonight is that just a few minutes ago, an engine company left. Once again, I mean, it points to the fact that there's just so much going on right now. A fire this size on both sides of the street, in a normal situation, you would be bringing units here, but they're not. They're leaving. Once again, what is concerning the fire officials is that nobody inside is inside and everybody is safe. So you can see what's going on right here in this corner. Fire is just burning out of control. Maybe we can turn around here 1 second. You can see once again, this is the Thrifty drugstore. You know, this is an area here where the kids will leave their mark with graffiti, but on a night like tonight, they're leaving their mark by setting everything on fire. And once again, and these kids are just burning down their own community here. It is just truly remarkable. You can see this entire complex here is just destroyed. They've got fire units attacking it from every side of this drugstore here. We've got everybody doing what they can right now. We've got all kinds of people standing around watching, too. One thing, though, at least in this part of the area, and like downtown, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of people running around throwing rocks and things at us. I guess these kids, they again left their mark here. They set it ablaze, and they ran out. Maybe we can take another look again at what's happening over here across the street. Once again, this is the Foot Locker. The fire officials here signaling to each other, trying to figure out what's the best course of action at this point. And as I was telling you just a minute ago, some fire engines actually leaving this location because they've got even other things, even greater things than this to be concerned with right now. Just absolutely the most remarkable thing I've ever seen.
Linda, we've
Calling
got,
back to you.
That's okay. We have Henry Alfaro at the same location there that you are from a different perspective, and we were out there with you once before, Henry. Has it gotten worse or better?
Well, actually, this is the first time I've ever seen the Los Angeles City as well as County Fire Department fighting fires under the guard of some Los Angeles police officers. I was told that this entire center was, when it was ablaze, that the fire officials had a tough time because people were blocking the outlets for the water, the fire hydrants. But nevertheless, this is what's left of the Crenshaw Town Center. Over to where the fire is going on right now, it's a donut shop that's been completely gutted. Radio Shack has been completely destroyed. On down the line, there's a couple of cars. There's a Thrifty drugstore over there. I've seen firefighters going in there because right adjacent to the Thrifty store is a national store. I think it's an apparel store. And that's the fire has been going pretty well. Now we have units here not only from the LA City, but also from the county, various parts of the county. As we move along, we see a number of small businesses to the right here. At one way or another, they've all been damaged severely. In some places, obvious looting has been going on. As we pan across to the Boys Market here, this place is chaos. It was looted. I was told by the public information officer of the LA City Fire Department that a fire was attempted. However, the sprinkler system went off, so that at least the building is still standing. A lot of the merchandise is scattered all over throughout the area here. And as you continue to go further, there's broken windows. There's a Pac Bell office over there. I don't know what damage there is there. Right behind, there was a tremendous fire going on the right side of the Pac Bell office. I don't know if we can still get a shot of it. Marco, Robolino's moving over here. We can still see it now. This thing was completely burned to the ground. There's been so many fires here that the fire department simply and physically cannot tend all of the fires. So it's a matter of trying to save what's at least salvageable. but you can still see some of that white puff of smoke. I think a fire truck is now in that vicinity. But over more to the right, there's the LAPD that holding guard because the fire officials have not been, the only reason they came in here was that they were able to come in here under guard. So it shows you the severity of the destruction that's going on at the vicinity here at the Crenshaw Town Center at the corner of Slauson and Crenshaw.
Henry?
Yes.
You were talking earlier tonight about the East Los Angeles fires. I know you were a native Angelino and you probably were here in town. I'm assuming you were here in town when the Watts riots came down in '65. Can you think back and compare tonight and those other nights for us?
Well, I didn't hear you very well, Benny, but I think I got the gist of the question. I think that the Watts riots, it was more of a confined disturbance in the South Central Watts area. This is all over the city, all over the South Central area here. Even while we were down at the command post, there were fires everywhere coming here, small fires, big fires, and this is a lot more chaotic, really, and the destruction is going to be just horrendous. And the bad part is that this is the community where people really need the business. This is the community where people can come and do their shopping, and now it's gone.
Henry, we were talking with District Attorney Ira Reiner earlier tonight, I think before you came online, and I asked him that same question, and he said he thought the Watts riots were wider spread, but that was before this spread out the way it has. And I wasn't here, but I was doing radio up in Sacramento. I agree with you. I think this is much more widespread than it was in '65.
I think so too, Paul, simply because there are far more structures. Some of the looting I remember and some of the fires were confined to along Broadway and Main Street. This is everywhere. And here you have a brand new modern shopping center, so with so great variety of buildings, and this is indicative, I think, of some of the extent of the looting and the destruction that's been taking place within the past 5 hours.
And tragically, history tells us that when these shops and stores get burned down, they do not get built right back up again. So if it's your neighborhood thrifty or your neighborhood donut store that's being burned down tonight, you're going to be without for a long time. Historically speaking, that's what has happened, and that's a tragedy right there.
That's right.
People destroying, basically, literally destroying their own communities.
Their
Henry,
own neighborhoods.
We are waiting as we speak to you for Governor Pete Wilson to come online, and that could happen at any second. So if we have to go away from you abruptly, that's why.
There I see Governor Wilson right now walking up to a podium. I think we can go to Governor Wilson live. He's going to be talking about the National Guard and the state of emergency, I believe.
I'm advised that there is someone from the Secretary of State's office on the way over to accept this proclamation of a state of emergency for Los Angeles City and Los Angeles County. This is in response to a request by Mayor Bradley and by the Board of Supervisors. Earlier this evening, I have been in touch with local officials, Sheriff Block, Chief Gates, state officials, the Director of the Office of Emergency Services, General Thrasher of the National Guard, Commissioner Hannigan of the CHP, and with Mayor Bradley twice. As you are aware, there are fires being set, deliberate arson, a great deal of looting. There have been a number of people injured. The area in question is South Central Los Angeles. As a result of the discussions that we have had, there will be as many as 750 California Highway Patrolmen made available. Their chief purpose is to try to seal off the area. They're trying to keep people, motorists, from entering the area. They will also be able to, by their containment of it, assist the law enforcement personnel from LAPD and from the Sheriff's Office in seeking to contain the area and ultimately to shrink it down. The problem with the fires obviously has been that in order to fight the fires, the firefighting crews have required protection themselves. We have had a couple of firemen shot this evening that we know about. Having said that, and additionally, we have made available some 2,000 National Guardsmen. They are on standby, prepared to move. Transport has been arranged so that additional Guardsmen and CHP can be moved from Northern California, though most of the CHP will be from 4 southern divisions. In short, we have sought to provide the local authorities with the reinforcements necessary for them to contain this rioting and looting. I join with Mayor Bradley and the leaders in particular of the black community who have urged the people of Los Angeles to remain calm. Clearly the rioters are ignoring that. The bitter irony, of course, is that the injury that is being done to South Central Los Angeles will be hurtful to the residents of that area. It is our hope that people will not be injured by the actions of what are apparently a comparative few. The number on the streets is not great, notwithstanding the number of fires, for the deliberate arson activity and the looting. Most of the residents seem to have remained in their homes, and we hope that they will do so and out of harm's way until law enforcement has been able to impose peace and quiet on the area and restore it to law and order. Mayor Bradley has indicated that he either will impose a curfew or has by this time done so. I think his appeal is well taken. I hope that it is heeded. There is no good that is being done by the actions of what are comparatively few. Vandalism and looting will not assist any. They will not assist Mr. King. And there's certainly every reason for those who have made such appeals to be heeded. It would be my guess, based on what preliminary information I have, that this case will be pursued. This evening there has been a statement by the U.S. Attorney, Lourdes Baird, that the investigation that was suspended in order to allow local law enforcement and local prosecutors, the district attorney, to go forward will be resumed. The federal offenses are different. They would be conducted, as I understand it, in pursuance to an investigation to determine whether or not there has been a denial of civil rights. That is about as much as I can tell you at this point, except to say that there is going to be every effort made to protect people who need protection. The violation of law clearly is not going to assist anyone. It simply makes a problem much worse, and it is our purpose here at the state government level to provide all the assistance to Mayor Bradley and to the county to restore law and order and to minimize the danger to the residents of the area. This is a matter that needs to be settled in the courts and not in the streets.
Are you able to reconcile what you saw on the beating of Ryan today's verdict?
No, I did not follow the case in detail, but I was surprised by the verdict.
Who will control the National Guardsmen once they, if they do hit the streets in L.A.? Is that local law enforcement, or do they remain under state control?
They are under operational control of the sheriff, but the understanding is that their purpose is to provide a guard function.
Will they move in, Governor, or there have been complaints in the early stages, no police officers or law enforcement moved in to, well, the services of the County Measure, and will they just stand back on that?
Now, law enforcement will continue to perform law enforcement functions. In other words, it will be the LAPD and the sheriff's officers, along with California Highway Patrol. The function of the guard, at least at this stage, will be to perform a guard function.
What does that mean?
It means that they're not going to be performing law enforcement per se, that they will be security for an area that has been subjected to looting. They will be, as opposed to performing an active law enforcement function.
Do they have any specific orders in terms of the amount of force that they're authorized to use?
The guard, I think, will not be in a situation where, in fact, they will be required to employ much in the way of force. I think they will simply secure areas that have been secured and see to it that there is not additional law breaking there, but the primary law enforcement responsibility will be with regular police agencies.
Will they be issued ammunition?
At this point, I can't say that. I would not think that it would be necessary if their function is purely guard.
Will the guard be deployed from Northern California as well as from Southern California? Where are they?
Depends on the requests. We have set up transportation to move them from Northern California if that is required, as well as California Highway Patrol officers.
Will they operate out of Los Alamitos? They have a major southern headquarters there.
The CHP?
No, the guard.
That armory will be used primarily for the California Highway Patrol officers who are going to be brought in from outside.
Is this an open-ended request, or could there be a request for an additional 2,000 guards people?
I think that's unlikely from what I have heard tonight, but it is an open-ended request in the sense that the proclamation of the state of emergency authorizes what help is required. But the request that we had from Mayor Bradley earlier was for 2,000, and the discussions with the sheriff and the chief and the commissioner led to the belief that it might very well be unnecessary to deploy the full 2,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you've
been listening
to and watching with us Governor Pete Wilson. Briefly, what he said was 750 CHP officers, mostly from the Southern Division, will come in here and help seal off the area to help keep people out. And they will assist the LAPD and the Sheriff's Department in doing that. How soon they will all be here, we don't know.
2,000 National Guardsmen are also going to be made available, mostly from 4 Southern divisions, said the governor. They'll bring them down from Northern California if they have to. And he just was saying he doesn't think that the National Guard will have to use force or ammunition. He says their function is to guard, and they're going to hold secure neighborhoods that the police department first secures. So that was the gist of what he obviously very disappointed and
he also reiterated something that you and I have been saying up here all night, and that is that these people are really doing injury to their own communities, and that there are, and this is interesting coming from the governor because he's been in touch with the law enforcement people, really relatively few people on the streets, notwithstanding all the fires we're seeing. So that says volumes right there.
It will be very interesting to find out if this is one group, if we ever can find out, if this is one small group of people running around and setting all these fires, as opposed to lots of people each doing one thing.
He also said that had not followed the Rodney King case very closely, but quoting the governor, I was surprised by the verdict.
Linda Breakstone standing by at a video store which has gone up in flames, and we'll go right out to her right now. Linda.
And I'm a stone's throw from USC here on the corner of Hoover and Adams. As you can see, Video 101 went up in flames. And we've been here for about 15 minutes, you know, through the governor's talk, and no firefighters have shown up here. And from the witnesses here around, they say that they just haven't paid attention to this particular fire. Now, this is part of a shopping center. And with me here, I've got a senior from USC. His name is Tyrone Fuller. Now, Tyrone, I found these shoe boxes on the sidewalk. What happened? Number one, first tell me how this started.
Well, first of all, everyone started off trying to break into the Video 101 video store. They had very little success with that. They tried to shoot the locks off, and then they proceeded to set it on fire. And then they weren't successful with.
So they had guns actually?
Yeah, actually had guns, and they tried to shoot the locks off. Then they proceeded on to go on to the Payless shoe store. And once they did the Payless shoe store, they proceeded to just.
Okay, could you back for a second, please? Thanks. Okay, now.
Just really just demolish the store.
Well, now, let me back up with just a second. They had guns, and they tried to shoot off the locks.
Yeah.
And then when that didn't work, what did they try to do?
They proceeded to set it on fire. I guess from being frustrated, and they moved on to the Payless.
We have some anxious teenagers here, as you can see. Now, tell me about the Payless shoe store.
Oh, it was just wild over there. It was probably 60 or 70 people that went into the store, and it just trucks and carloads of people just pulled up to it. And
but they were taking the shoes out of the shoe boxes.
Taking them out of shoe boxes, had them by strings.
Now, who are these people here?
These are people.
Did you see any of this go on?
I was here. I've been to the whole
Did you
night.
have anything to do with any of this?
It should be chaos. No.
You didn't do any of this?
Wait, our friends got stabbed in all this thing. Wait, Sharky, heartbeat.
No, did you do anything? Did you see any of this?
Yeah, we saw most of it.
You hurt your finger. How did you hurt your finger?
I cut myself to breaking the glass.
You were trying to break the glass?
No. No, our friend got stabbed in the mouth. It's just
Who were these people that came through?
Some of them are students from USC, and some of them are residents of South Central Los Angeles.
But who were the people that came through and did the looting and things?
Just residents, older people from age 40, 50, 35, 20. All ages were here. You would have been deeply surprised.
So they're all ages?
All ages.
Okay. Reporting live from Hoover and Adams, let's go back to you. I'm Linda Breakstone.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to come back to us right at that point, Linda. Thank you. We have on the line, I believe, on our beeper phone, John Mack from the Urban League. Mr. Mack, Paul Moyer, could...
We're going to have to try again.
We've lost him.
We've got a dial tone instead of John
It would
Mack.
be interesting to talk to him because he was one of those, I believe, at the AME Church earlier tonight, pleading for calm and nonviolence.
Yes,
he is a well-spoken man. If we can get him back, I'd sure like to do that.
We have a third death to confirm for you. We have been in touch with Daniel Freeman Hospital throughout the night. We knew that there was one person who had been killed, who was shot. The second one who died fell off a flatbed truck, we were told, and suffered head injuries and was killed. And now we have a third death to report to you. I don't have any details on that third death, who it was or how it happened, but that makes 3 dead tonight. We had about 50 people who had been treated at Daniel Freeman, 4 or 5 who had been admitted, 25 or more waiting to be treated. The last time we checked in with Mark Brown at the hospital, and of course we had the man who had been pulled out of his truck and beaten, who was earlier tonight in surgery in very critical condition. So that is the count as we understand it right now.
We have, Ann, back on our line, John Mack from the Urban League. Mr. Mack, can you hear me?
Yes.
Paul Moyer with Ann Martin here at Channel 7. You were at the AME Church earlier tonight, weren't you, sir?
Yes, I was.
And we heard a lot of what you said, and it was very eloquent, and it was it was well said and well spoken. In light of that, we are looking at a picture of a huge fire, one of many in Southern California tonight. Mr. Mack, what do you make of all this?
This is a very painful double tragedy. The jury verdict, first of all, today was just such a gross miscarriage of justice, but to look at the burning, the looting, that's also a very low point in our city's history. I can understand the frustration and anger, but this is not the way to go about it, and it just pains me so deeply to see this kind of self-destruction that's taken place. As strong as we all feel about the wrong, first in terms of the beating of Rodney King Miller's officers and today's jury verdict, I really, it just blows my mind that, regrettably, there are people who would resort to this kind of behavior, because this is not a constructive way of channeling that anger and that frustration. It's not going to get the job done. It's a sad day for our city.
Mr. Mack, we've been speculating tonight that there's probably a lot less real, true unhappiness over the verdict at work here on the part of the people who are looting and burning, and probably a lot more opportunism. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't know. That could well be a part of it. Who knows what's really going on out there now? This is one of the tragedies that frequently has accompanied over the years, beginning with the Watts Rebellion and so many other outbursts throughout the nation. You have these kinds of situations where initially out of frustration and anger, you have a few people resorting to this kind of behavior because they've become so cynical, feel so let down by the system, and then it feeds upon itself. Clearly, there are those who will come out and exploit a situation like this, and there's no doubt in my mind that that's a part of what's going on, but I think it would be a mistake to just simply dismiss it as opportunism by a bunch of people who want to just destroy. I think it's just an unwise way of going about things. It doesn't make sense. Two wrongs don't make a right, and it's not going to help Rodney King. It's not going to help us reform the police department.
Mr. Mack, when this is all over, what do we all do to bring this city back together, to heal these fiery, gaping, painful wounds when this is over? What steps need we take?
Well, I would urge and I would appeal to the citizens of Los Angeles, certainly all of the clear-thinking, right-minded citizens, to understand that if we're going to heal our wounds and if we're going to become a city of togetherness, that it's important for people to look past race, to look past some of their own self-interest and try to look at the larger whole. And again, in the law enforcement arena, I believe it's so very important for the average white resident of this city to not stereotype all of us, and to understand that what's happening tonight is being and will be deplored by the large majority of African Americans. We know this is not the right way of solving our problems, and now is the time for people not to use this as a defense to say, well, let's get back to business as usual, and it's all right for the police to continue to brutalize people and misuse the basic civil rights and civil liberties of people who are innocent of all of this business. I think, frankly, now is the time for statesmanship, and now is the time for a recognition of each other as human beings, a basic respect, and to understand that all of us want to build and develop Los Angeles, not tear it apart and destroy it.
Talking about building and developing, we have the tragic history of the Watts Rebellion of 1965. I don't believe the Watts area ever quite recovered from all the buildings that were lost and the neighborhood businesses that were destroyed. And we have, I think, destruction on an even greater scale tonight, not confined to Watts, but spread out over the south central Los Angeles area. Many shopping centers and businesses being ruined here, Mr. Mack. How do we turn this one around this time? How do we not have the lingering scars that we had from the Watts incident?
That's a major challenge, Ann, and I mean, you're absolutely right. That's one of the big challenges that we face, because as I heard one of during your news programs, a couple of you commented, one of the obvious self-defeating results of this kind of burning and looting is that those stores that are being burned. On the one hand, a number of us have been advocating, arguing for, pushing for stores in our communities, supermarkets, drugstores, and other kinds of businesses and services that the overwhelming majority of the black people who live in this part of the city need, deserve, and want, rather than having to travel great distances and have to be inconvenienced and that kind of thing. Whenever this kind of destruction occurs, it becomes even more difficult to convince and persuade the owners of these kinds of businesses, these retail chains, to rebuild. So that's going to make our job even more difficult. But I would again appeal to people who own these various businesses and to the leaders and the residents of the entire city to not condemn an entire community or not condemn an entire race of people or cultural group simply because of the extremely regrettable and tragic and unfortunate behavior of still a handful of people.
Mr. Mack, it's late. We're going to let you go, but before we do, one can only wonder what Willie Williams in Philadelphia is thinking about all this right now. What are you going to expect from him when he comes back and comes into office?
I'm going to expect Willie Williams to offer some leadership. I know that a lot of people are going to expect him to be Superman. I don't expect him to be a Superman or a miracle worker, but I would expect Willie Williams, number one, to establish a new leadership tone as the chief of police of the city of Los Angeles, to send out a message and a signal, not only both to his patrol officers on the streets as well as to the public at large, that yes, on the one hand, under his leadership, that the Los Angeles Police Department will be tough on crime, will certainly address the serious gang problems and all the other problems that are plaguing our community, but by the same token that it's going to be a police department that will work in partnership with all segments of the city and not pursue a divisive course. And I would hope that Willie Williams will set a leadership tone by example, not engaging in the shoot-from-the-lip kind of approach, and not inflaming the situation with his own rhetoric, but trying to set a calming and healing kind of approach to recognize and respect the tremendous diversity in our city. He has his work cut out, but hopefully he's up to the task.
John Mack of the Urban League, we thank you for being with us on the phone tonight. It is a tragic and a heartbreaking night for the city of Los Angeles, and we appreciated your insights on it.
Thank you. I enjoyed being with you.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, Mr. Mack.
Good night.
Let me pass along something briefly to you. Mayor Bradley has imposed a curfew to take effect tomorrow from sunset to sunrise, covering an area bordered by Vernon on the north, to the city limits on the east, Century Boulevard on the south, and Crenshaw on the west. The mayor is also limiting the sale of gasoline and other flammable liquids except for normal filling of motor vehicles, and there is an immediate citywide ban on firearms and ammunition.
We've been looking at a live picture the entire time that we've talked to Mr. Mack, and this is, of course, the fire department trying to take down one of the dozens, literally dozens of fires that have raged throughout the city of Los Angeles tonight, primarily in the south central part of the city, also out in the Crenshaw district, further out west of that at La Brea and Rodeo, another shopping center there. An awful lot of fires happening tonight that they haven't been able to get to, but this is one where they are very active.
I think that Linda Moore is at the scene of another one. She is in the Crenshaw district. I see fire behind you, Linda Moore.
Really in the same area right here. This is another angle, and if you want to take a look at what's going on in this direction here, this is just yet another shopping complex that is going up in flames once again. This is the Thrifty drugstore. There is an auto parts store, and you can see this black smoke and the ash going way up into the sky and the embers flying everywhere. It seems that the fire department's starting to get a handle on this. Lost the battery. We got to throw it back to you. We lost our battery here, guys.
Lost the battery.
All right.
Okay, we're back.
Yep,
Can
back.
If you can hold on with me here,
Sure.
maybe you can hold on to this picture here. I'm going to talk to a couple people who have lived in this area most of their lives. Eugene Exum,
yes.
you have lived in this area how long?
Oh, about 53 years.
And what is your reaction to this?
I think it's a very poor situation that we'd have to go through something like this.
And you say that you experienced the Watts riots. You were
sure
here.
Did, yes.
Were you expecting this tonight?
I sure was.
You were?
Yes, I was.
When you reflect back then and see what's going on now, what are your thoughts?
It's the same situation that we have. We have bureaucrats and the politicians that waste a whole lot of money on situations that cause for things like this to happen.
You know, we were talking about earlier how it's really just a lot of kids who are causing this. This is not a reflection of the black community, and you were saying that this infuriates you like everyone else.
Well, we are people of one kind. We have to live in this world together. Whether you're black, white, green, or purple, it doesn't make any difference. We all have to obey the law. The law should be, you know, applied to all that it should be. You know, not one for the other, one for the other that is good as the other, or, you know, how it might be.
After the Watts riots simmered down, did you think that there'd be history repeating itself, 20, 25, almost 30 years later?
I had hoped that when we got into the affirmative action, some of the programs that they signed, that they had not completed as of today. It's a very sad situation.
Here again tonight, you see parts of the community burning down, and
it's tearing apart.
And you brought your son down here because you wanted him to see what was going on.
Exactly. I wouldn't want him out there in the street running around doing the things that you say that other kids might do.
Let me get your reaction, Todd. You're 14 years old. This is the first time you've seen anything like this. What do you think?
Well, I think is that this is bad for our community that we see things like this. Well, young teenagers, adults, they come here, they get jobs. Now this happens. Now they have to go look somewhere else for a job.
Is there a message you'd like to give to other black young people like yourself tonight?
Yes, it's like that. Take a look around your community. Look at the things that people bring to you. Never destroy what people bring to you under a situation like what has happened with Rodney King. It's best to get.
Okay, all right. Thank you both for stopping by and talking to us. Once again, as we were saying earlier, that from what I have seen myself tonight, dozens and dozens of mainly gang-type kids destroying the area. Some were black, some were Hispanic, some were white, a whole ethnic mix. And that's what's going on here. Once again, another chunk of L.A. burning down. Back to you, Paul and Ann.
Thanks very much for that, Linda. We understand that we have Bill Chandler, who works in the mayor's office, on the beeper phone right now. Mr. Chandler, are you there?
I am here.
We last heard from the mayor. We decided he was probably trying to put the best possible face on the situation. He said he believed that things were under control. It doesn't seem to be that way right now, Mr. Chandler, do you think?
Well, clearly the mayor has called this morning for a curfew that would go from sundown to sunrise. It would be in effect as long as the local state of emergency is in order. Clearly the mayor is concerned about the entire city, and he wants to bring people together at this time to rebound from what happened this evening. Clearly, the mayor was outraged at what he saw, and the mayor actually gave 3 directives this evening. I'm not sure if you've listed them or not, but one is banning the sale citywide of ammunition. Another is banning the sale citywide of gasoline for any purpose other than for a motor vehicle. This evening, it appeared that gasoline, gas was sold in cans that later turned into Molotov cocktails, and clearly that was a problem, as we all witnessed. These are some measures that the mayor has given under the emergency ordinance, the power to enact, and clearly we're taking this action now. City Hall is operating around the clock this evening, but clearly the mayor is outraged at what he saw, but he also wants to ensure that the people who want to bring up people together, talk about what we can do constructively, that is also his message.
Yeah, we got those points, Mr. Chandler, before. Has Mayor Bradley been in contact by any chance with Willie Williams in Philadelphia? And is this going to change Mr. Williams' plans? Maybe he'll come out here a little earlier or spend some more time out here. What can you tell us about that?
Well, the mayor's been involved in a flurry of calls this evening, both a conference call with the governor and law enforcement officials, and many other calls. I do not know whether or not he had a chance to talk with Chief Williams directly. Clearly, the mayor has referred to Chief Williams as being a person who can come to the city, talk about bringing people together,
and be a real constructive force at this time. At this point, there is no decision to ask Chief Williams to begin earlier, although clearly the mayor will call on everyone's resources to get us through this time of crisis.
What is the sense there in the mayor's office of how things are being handled at this point? Do you have the feeling that everything that can be done is being done and that the best effort is being made?
We established our Emergency Operations Center early this evening, which is what happens whenever there's a disaster of any type. The resources are manning the Emergency Operations Center as we speak. Clearly, the mayor has some questions that he hopes are answered in the morning by the officials who are responsible for maintaining public safety. But, the bottom line is that it's been a rough night, and one that the mayor hopes is eased both through the curfew and these other measures. And he's also called upon the governor with to make the National Guard available. So we're looking towards making sure we have the resources to calm the city and to bring people together.
Mr. Chandler, Tom Bradley's been mayor of this city for the better part of 20 years, as I figure it, give or take a year.
Mm-hmm.
How is he taking this tonight? I mean, personally, you've been with him, obviously, not too long ago. You've talked with him. You've seen what he's doing. How is Tom Bradley, the man, holding up under all of this?
Well, he's an incredibly strong man, excuse me, but at the same time, he was shocked by the verdict this afternoon. He couldn't comprehend how the jury reached that conclusion. At the same time, he knew it was important to respond quickly so that people knew that there was a forum for their concerns, and the forum being supporting the reforms that have been proposed for the police department. So he was deeply saddened by what he saw, but at the same time, he is going to be the calm force who guides the city, and he will continue to do that. And I think in the days ahead, you'll see the vintage Tom Bradley out there talking about what we can do constructively together.
It's going to be a challenge.
Yes, that's true.
Bill Chandler from Mayor Tom Bradley's office, we thank you at this late hour for taking the time to talk to us by phone.
Okay, my pleasure.
All right, Mr. Chandler. Earlier tonight, and I don't recall, it was about an hour ago, I think we had a report of looting in Westwood, was it?
Mm-hmm. And police out there?
And police activity out there. That is quite a ways west from where we've seen the center of activity so far. Laura Diaz is there with one of our New Star satellite trucks. Laura, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Paul. We're in front of the Federal Building here on Wilshire Boulevard in Westwood, as you mentioned. And actually, just a couple of moments ago, there were about 100 demonstrators who were standing in front of the building, actually going out into traffic at some point. Some cars would go by and beep that they were in support of the demonstration that we saw out here. That group of about 100 or more is now heading down the boulevard toward Westwood proper. We see black and whites coming towards us. You can hear the sirens as we speak. That is what I can see right now. So far, it has been pretty peaceful while we've been here. It's been extremely noisy, but peaceful. Earlier today, though, we were in Westwood and we shot some video that we're going to show you right now. You're hearing the fire department as we speak. The video that we shot earlier, you can see the windows broken out. Much of the violence that took place here was actually at a Copeland's at Westwood and Weyburn in Westwood, and we were told that the crowd swelled to as many as 200 people of all races there. Some of the people supposedly were actually college students, went in and broke the windows and took out. They were looting. The authorities told us that they got a tip that there might be a brawl here, and that's why they came down to the area. There was a standoff. There were only about 10 or 11 of them, and as many as 200 of the people who gathered in the crowd. Once again, it started out peacefully at about 10:30, we are told, and then it escalated from there, and that's when the looting began. Nobody was arrested, I want to point out. The authorities told us the reason for that was that there simply were not enough of them. One of the sergeants here from the LAPD told me he thought it was an indication of what was going on throughout the city, that there were hot spots throughout the city, that actually there were so few LAPD that they were not able to make arrests in many cases, and that he feared that that would be setting the tone for what would be occurring here in the city over the next couple of days. You hear one of the protesters who's making a lot of noise down on the street right now, a little bit difficult to hear me. That's what we know right now. Those protesters have headed down the street. Everything looks pretty calm out here. I'm Laura Diaz reporting live from Westwood. Now back to the studio.
Okay, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. We hope it stays calm there. Well, that was the report of looting that we had. Sure enough, it was confirmed.
We saw it, evidence of it in our tape there.
Clear as can be. Linda Breakstone, we understand, at that location near the campus of USC. We're going to go out to her right now and find out what's happening there. Linda.
Okay, Annie, just a few blocks from where we last were. Again, very close to USC on the corner of 24th Street and Vermont, right off the Santa Monica Freeway. You see here a lot of smoke. There's still a lot of flames behind this. This was a major blaze. We have 6 fire trucks out here, so this is a situation where the fire department did respond. As you can see, they are still pouring water on it, but they're getting a grip on it. Down there, down the street, you can see the row of buildings. There are cases and the items that obviously were taken from those stores right there. So there were people apparently that were looting here because there are telltale signs of it. I talked to some of the fire captains earlier. They cannot come on camera. They said this has been such a frustrating experience for them. They've seen a lot of things and they can't do anything about it. They were referring to, of course, different people doing things that they could not corral, could not catch, could not get them, could not arrest them. So what we have here again is another huge fire very, very close to USC. Now we are going to, right after this, go closer into the USC campus where we hear there has been a lot of other disturbances there also. So again, this is the second one we've seen by SC. It's pretty amazing. I went to college here actually. It's quite amazing to see this much destruction right here. This was a hardware store, by the way.
All right, you are an old Angelino, and you've been a reporter for the Herald Examiner, and you're a reporter for us. And what are your thoughts, Linda, if you're still there? Can we go back to Linda and tell me what you think?
And I'm pretty stunned. I mean, I've obviously seen a lot in Los Angeles, but I have never seen anything like this. I was not around for the Watts riots in the 60s, but I've never seen anything like this, never. And everywhere you go, it seems, every pocket of the city, there is something going on. Laura Diaz just showed us Westwood. This is amazing. In the last block we were at, a couple of, just a few blocks down the street, where you saw all those teenagers and a few kids from SC, but other members that were just climbing and screaming and yelling and doing all these things. It's just like they have free reign tonight to do everything they want to do. It's really a horrible sight.
Would you mind if I told everybody that you're pretty tough?
Sure.
All right. Well, you are. I mean, you've been around. You're a hell of a reporter, and to hear you say that you haven't seen too much like this gives us a good insight as to what's going on.
Thank you, Paul.
All right. Thank you, Linda.
Back to you. We're going to go to the conference. Okay. They need us here. As you can see, they're bringing their ladders by.
There they go. All right, Linda, thank you.
We'll be back with you in your next spot, ma'am. We
have, of course, been reminding you, and I don't think anybody that's watching this doesn't know, unless you've been under a rock, and I know none of you have, that this all started at 3 o'clock when the verdict came in of the 4 officers accused in the beating of Rodney King. Not guilty on all counts except one, and that was Officer Lawrence Powell, and that charge is still pending. That's where all this began. We are going to go to a piece of tape in just a minute. Ted Koppel managed to speak to one of the jurors. Now, the juror didn't give Ted his name, but we're going to get an insight as to maybe why the jury voted the way it did. But first, we have Fire Captain Donald Manning, Chief Donald Manning, on the line with us. Chief, it's Paul Moyer and Ann Martin. Good evening. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
We have been sitting here, sir, for the better part of 5 hours, watching what looks like the city of Los Angeles burn down. Actually, it's not, but there are an awful lot of fires out there, maybe 30 to 40 that we counted. Can you give us any idea of what it's been like for you tonight and how you're handling this?
It's really, I think your first analysis is exactly the one I felt. The city was having enormous fires, more than we could handle. At any given time, we had 30 that we were working on. In any given time over the last several hours, we've had about 120 incidents that we were on, of which approximately 30 of those were active fires. And we were aware that more than that were burning and were not being reported to us. We actually put up a helicopter with a spotter in to start finding the other fires so that we could dispatch on those. It's been a very, very difficult night, one in which firefighter safety was obviously on my mind very heavily, the public safety. We just didn't want anybody to be hurt. We did have a firefighter that was shot through the cheek, bullet lodging in the neck area, and he about an hour and 15 minutes ago went into surgery. I don't have a result of that.
Chief Manning, let me stop you right there. Please stay on the line with us for a couple of minutes. I know this is tough. We've got Chief Gates talking right now. Will you wait?
We'll try to get back to him.
Chief, tonight Tom Bradley indicated that things were getting under control. Do you agree with that?
Well, not as yet, no. I think we slowly will get it under control, but I think there's a lot of work to be done before it is under control.
What about the National Guard? How is it going to be deployed?
Well, the National Guard is going to be in their armories. We simply have asked the governor to put them on standby. That means they will be deployed in the armory. If we need them, we'll deploy them and give them missions, and their job will simply be to guard certain areas that we are not able to guard.
Chief, in many areas, Chief, there's been a lot of looting going on, and black and whites are going by. Why is that?
Well, once again, most of that is because we have not been deployed in the way we should. Our first effort was to deal with the fire situation, to get the fire rigs out, and they needed protection. Secondly is to get our patrol out in large enough numbers so that we can begin dealing with that kind of a situation. So you're right, looting has gone on and we have not done very much about it.
Any idea as to how many arrests have been made? Any idea, Chief, as to how many arrests?
Well, yeah, I really had hoped that nothing like this would happen during my last few weeks in office, but once again, deja vu, I've been through it before.
Chief, what's the latest on injuries and deaths?
I've got to go.
Chief, do you have the latest on injuries and deaths?
That was Chief Darrell.
We've been listening to Chief Darrell Gates telling us that the first effort tonight has been to assist on the fires. He hasn't gotten to the looting as much as he would like to have. I think we have Chief Donald Manning, Fire Chief, still on the line. Do we? Are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Well, thank you very much for allowing us
staying.
to interrupt you just for a second. Go on. You were talking about how what it was like for you tonight.
Well, I think I mentioned we'd had the one individual who had been shot. We've had people literally forced to abandon their fire vehicles and seek refuge, and we had to go in and retrieve these people. They've been under attack, and it's been a very, very difficult period of time. From my command post at City Hall East here, I watched fires within the block around the building being lit, including the Children's Museum just up the street, and of course our units were coming in and extinguishing. It's been a really very hectic night. We currently have about 112 incidents we're working on. About 30 of those are fires, and that number is holding pretty constant for us, and I just really beseech the people, let's not do this. This is destroying our city. Let's not do this. Let's get calm back in. We don't want anybody hurt.
Chief, about 10:30, according to my recollections, we had a report that a firefighting crew and truck had disappeared near Vernon and Vermont. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, that's correct. They had been sent to fight a fire in that area, and as additional units arrived, and I heard their calls for help over the radio system, and we did get units responding and police as rapidly as possible. When they got there, the fire trucks were there, but the people were not. And there was a very frantic period there. The people on those fire trucks had literally had to take refuge in a structure nearby until a safe, secure area could be developed. They're okay, and we have them back, and they're actually working on other incidents right now.
So at this point tonight, sir, you still are not sending out fire trucks to any of these fires without a police accompaniment, is that right?
That's very accurate. In the area that's very active right now, we are going with, we're sending them out in groups, and we're sending them out with a police escort.
You kind of feel like a firefighter, or excuse me, a fighter in the ring with one hand tied behind your back.
Yeah, very much so. It's a very, very difficult time for us, and we're holding our own at this moment. We're trying. Our people are now starting to get their dinner. We're getting them hamburgers out there, and we're trying to deliver to them wherever they are on the fire line to get something to eat because they're very tired. It's been a very difficult time for them. but we're making that attempt, and of course we are getting some of these mutual aid units in to help us. But virtually every fire that comes into us that we have resources, we dispatch on it. And if it's in an area where we can't go, we wait until we have the police protection, and then we go.
How many other cities have sent you trucks that you can use?
Well, initially we asked LA County, and they immediately sent us units. We also asked at the same time what's called Area A, which is Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, and Culver City, and they immediately dispatched what we call strike teams, and they dispatched 2 of those. And then we went to Region, which is a very large area and within the mutual aid system, and it was through this process that we got 14 more, and that can go on up in past Santa Barbara to where they're coming from.
We are looking at, I believe, tape shot earlier of one of these fires. Do you have any idea how many major fires are still burning right now, Chief?
No, I do not. I just don't have a count on that. In fact, I don't even have a monitor. I'm watching what you are. But we have, as I mentioned, about 30 that we're working on, and I from what I've been able to determine, most of those are of really substantial size. I listened a little bit ago, one of them we dispatched on, and immediately the chief in charge says, I need 10 more units on it. That was a major incident. So we have a lot of those going.
You know, as we look at this, as we've watched this through the night, Chief Manning, first reaction when you see these things start to go is amazement. And you watch these fires burn, and you think, gee, LA Fire never lets a building burn down to the ground, and we saw so many of them go that way. And finally, my emotions at this point, and I know that I'm tired, but the overwhelming emotion is just enormous sadness. Do you feel that too?
I think that's it. I feel a very high level of frustration, sad, because you're absolutely right. When there's a fire, we get in and we take care of business. Mm-hmm. And in my view, no one can do it better than this department. But in this case, there were so many, so quick, and some of them we just could not get into because of the danger. I think you may have seen in one case where they drug a person out of a vehicle and he was severely beaten. And in those areas, until we had security, we could not put fire units in because they would be subjected to the same.
Well, I'm not trying to patronize you, Chief, but I know that we've sat up here night after night and reported on fires and seen them, a lot of them live, and seen you knock them down in a big hurry. You've got one of the best departments in the United States, and it's just a damn shame what's going on right now.
Well, thank you, Paul. I know we all feel frustrated over this, and I just hope we just don't have anyone that is seriously injured. I know that individual that was beaten is seriously injured, and I hope there are no others that their quality of life is threatened over this. This is not what the city needed at this time. We needed a healing process. We needed to get past this recession. We needed businesses. We needed jobs, and this is very counterproductive.
Self-inflicted wounds on top of all the other kind.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chief Donald Manning, LA City Fire. Appreciate your being on the line with us. Henry Alfaro, standing by. I believe the last time we talked to Henry, he was at the Crenshaw Shopping District, and I'm not sure if you're still there, Henry, but we'll go out to you and find out just where you are.
Right now, Annie, I'm here at the Wichot. We got a lot of police officers coming in here. We're at the command post at 54th and Arlington, actually 54th and Van Ness. Police Chief Daryl Gates just concluded a news conference, and he gave out various facts, and he said that this rioting and the looting that's been going on and the fires is far bigger than he ever anticipated. He says it's spread faster and more rapidly than he had, at least he thought it would. He said as far as no arrests that are being made, he said the priorities right now have been for the police to escort the fire departments and the paramedics units. He said that this is priority in order to stop all of the destruction that's been going on. However, after the fires are all under control, then all looters will be arrested if they're seen by the Los Angeles Police Department. He says that the California Highway Patrol will be assisting. They've closed off parts of the freeways, and a curfew area has been imposed from dusk till dawn. And he also indicated that they will have a complete ban on the sales of guns and ammunitions and gasoline unless it's just strictly for vehicles. He did say, though, that the Los Angeles Police Department will work throughout the night as well as throughout the day to assure that the citizens of the city of Los Angeles will be protected. That, in essence, was what he said at his news conference. Henry Alfaro reporting live from the command post. Back to you.
Henry, did he talk at all about why they didn't respond right away? We had one of his officers talk about that. Did Chief Gates talk about that?
No, he didn't say that, at least not to the early part of the, if he said it in the early part of the interview, we just barely made it here. We got the tail end.
All right, sir.
But I really couldn't tell you on that, Paul.
All right, Henry, thank you.
Thanks
Good job
very
getting there
much,
when
Henry.
you did. Well,
We got
Linda
a lot of reporters out there who
Linda
have
Moore.
been running their fannies off tonight, too, and holding up very well under a very stressful night. As you say, Linda Moore, next in line here.
I think she's still in the Crenshaw district, Linda?
Yeah, Paul Ann, we're still in the same area here, just like you, watching parts of the city just burn in this area here, Crenshaw, Baldwin Hills, you can see behind me. This was one corner, a little small shopping complex. It seems that the flames are still burning, but they seem like they've got that under control right now. We've got some police units here that have just pulled up. Interesting, the police units full of police officers, 5, 6 of them into each unit. We were told that they're bringing in police officers from as far as Riverside, San Bernardino County, so they're obviously just packing up the cars and just trying to cruise the area. They were also cruising some AM/PM markets here on the other corner here just to check everything out. If we can, for a minute, Martin, can you turn around and we can show them what's happening here at the Thrifty Drugstore? We've been showing you this for the last couple of hours, and it appears, as you can see, that they're getting this under control as well. Inside the store, flames are still burning furiously. The smoke's still going up in the air. We got embers flying. Got several fire engines, of course, still here, making sure that it doesn't spread any farther, because we've got so much amber flying right now that is always a risk that it will set off other fires. Some of the kids in this area I talked to said that this Thrifty's, like many other places tonight, was looted first. The store doesn't even close till midnight, so I hate to even imagine what the situation here was earlier, but they said here, like the other places in South Central Los Angeles, that looting took place here, and then they set it on fire. Can I talk to a couple of you? Let me just get your... Come here just a second. We're just talking to some people here in the community about what they've seen here tonight. What is your name?
Melody.
And how long have you lived in this area?
Ever since I was 16, for about 9 years, 10 years.
Have you been watching what's been going on around town in here tonight?
Yeah.
And what do you think when you see your corner stores and parts of your community burning up?
I'm mad because it shouldn't have came to this. You know, this is a black community right here. Now, a lot of black people is out of work right now, you know, and I don't think it was
Why do you think this
fair.
happened? What? It was beyond the anger. What do you think it was? From our observation, it seemed to be a lot of kids, a lot of gang types starting.
I think they're upset because the police got off, you know, and then that wasn't fair. If they was gonna do this, they should have had everything set up. They should have had everything. They should have been prepared for this to happen, because it was gonna happen. It was gonna happen. They're not prepared. They're not prepared.
You think the police?